Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the New Cal Corner. Today we have Bobby from Gecko Cove with us.
How's
He's
it
been a
going,
guest
everybody?
on the other podcast that I co-host, and I think he has a lot to offer. And he's a super cool dude, and I am completely honored to have him over here on the New Cal Corner tonight.
Thank you, Anthony.
Without any further ado, let's welcome Bobby and get into this, guys. So, Bobby, everybody pretty much knows who you are, but for the ones that don't, do you mind just giving us a quick introduction on who you are, how you got into this, and maybe a little bit about what you're doing over there at Gecko Cove?
Can I say no? No, I'm joking. I'm
Yeah,
happy to do so.
yeah.
No, definitely. Again, my name's Bobby. I Gecko Cove. I've been doing. I've been keeping geckos since 2020. Into reptiles and other animals well before that. That's a whole other story. Go watch the other podcast after this, and you'll get the full story of that. But basically, what I'm up to now is I've been breeding now for this is my third season. I'm always evolving. I'm always trying to stay small and trying to get the best quality. And I'm learning a ton. I've. It's funny if you go back and watch, other podcasts with me in it. There's things that I'll say tonight probably that kind of contradict what I was planning on doing earlier. So I'm always trying to learn, always trying to evolve. And really the biggest thing is I'm sticking with mostly gargoyles. We'll talk about there might be one other species that you like, Anthony, that I picked up. But I really am trying to create high coverage, high color gargoyles, both blotch and striped. And so I'm really trying to pay attention to the minutia in them and focus on structure and lineage and just, I want whatever I create. I know not every baby is going to be a home run 10 out of 10. That's not how this works. But I want whatever animals that I produce to be something that people look at and go, wow, that's something special. And that's my goal.
Awesome. All right, so I have a question that I've really been enjoying asking all my guests lately, and I think I'm going to ask you. I'm sure I know the answer, but for all of us out there that don't, who is Bobby? Who is Bobby? Who are you aside from Gecko Cove?
That's a good question. I like that. Oh, I'm a lot of things, but first and foremost, I am a husband and a father to the most amazing family that supports me, that allows me to do this. My wife, Melissa, is my rock. She is my world. I wouldn't be me without her. So she is the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. Period. End of conversation.
Amen.
Um, my kids are, you know, they're the best. I got two sons, and they're young, and I have enjoyed, and I wish I could slow down time because I've enjoyed every moment from the moment they were born up until now, putting them to bed, and, every night learning a little bit about them, seeing them become young little men, right? And young little boys. And sharing my passions with them, right? My 3-year-old is obsessed with the gargoyles, like obsessed. My 6-year-old to a degree likes them, but it's funny how they're different. Every child is different, and
Absolutely.
just seeing him go, can we see the geckos? Can we see the geckos? He wants to check the eggs in the morning with me. And what's funny is I'll tell you this fun story. When he was just about a year and a half old, okay, this is not a well coordinated, 1.5-year old. He was so excited, and I didn't have, for a little bit, I had a baby gate, and this is the reason I had a baby gate around my geckos. It wasn't for my dogs, it wasn't for anything else. It was for my toddler because he was so obsessed with the geckos. He went into my incubator that I thought he couldn't open, took my container of about 6 to 8 eggs. Right, of high end, like these were my best babies. I found out later on when they hatched, but I was worried. He brought them downstairs from my upstairs and goes, Daddy, can we check the eggs? If he would have dropped them, if he would have shaken them, you know? Um, but he was just so excited. So I couldn't get mad at him.
No,
But,
what are you saying?
it was so cute, but scary at the same time. And we had a conversation. And for the rest of that year, no touching daddy's eggs, no touching daddy's eggs. We look, we
That's
don't
great.
touch, so
That's
that's who I am.
great.
First and foremost, I'm a dad. I've been a school counselor as well as my career for well over a decade, and just helping students, helping families go through, one of the most challenging transition times in their life, high school. I know everybody loved their high school experience, me included. I can't believe I work in a high school. I hated high school, to be honest with you. Uh, but I won't go into that drama right now. And speaking of one of my kids, Oliver, come here, buddy. Is it okay if he comes on? Just say
Absolutely.
hi. Come here,
Absolutely.
big
You can
guy.
take the
All
show if
right,
you want to.
boys, just say hi real quick. All right, and then Daddy's got to
Oh,
get back.
look
This is
at
my buddy out.
that.
This is the one who
Handsome.
who had the egg.
What's
This is
up,
George.
guys? How are you? You're
So
famous now.
you say hi.
What's up?
Yeah.
You guys like the
So
geckos? You like your daddy's geckos?
you like the geckos, guys? Yeah. My gecko bites. All right.
That's awesome.
Well, Dave's gonna finish the podcast. So if you guys could go, all right. Say
See you
bye.
later, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys. All
Beautiful.
right. Yep. So
Absolutely
those are my
beautiful.
worlds.
That's
Um,
not what life's all about, Bobby. God bless, man.
it is. And here's the fun part. So I've been a counselor for 10 years and I have 3 weeks left. I am retiring. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm not really, getting my pension. I'm not that old. But don't I look good for, retirement age? Uh, but no, I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad. So I get to be with them even more and bring them around and do t-ball practice and
That's
do all the
awesome.
things that some people look at as a chore and a job, and it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be the most work I've ever done in my life, but that I'm fortunate
In more
enough.
ways than you understand, it is, yeah.
I don't even understand until it happens, right? Until I look back and go, I had the time with my kids more than most men. And so I'm really excited just to really shape them to be young men and grow with them. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a growth process. So, uh, yeah, that's who I am. I got other hobbies. I love to golf. I love tennis. Played football all the way through high school and college,
Really?
one state. I don't look like I did, but it wasn't because of me on the team. So if any of my old teammates are watching this ever, you guys were the awesome one. I was still learning how to be a decent athlete. So yeah, it was fun.
That's awesome. How much golf do you play? Play a lot of golf? You travel?
Uh, n- Not
Played
as
any
much
kind of
as I'd
tournament?
like to. I'd like to play a few times, every other week kind of thing. My thing is, I had the most wicked right dog leg. I had a horrible slice, right? So right dog legs were always my hole for a while. But I lately I fixed my drive, and finally out driving my old man, which is awesome because he plays golf. He's a dentist,
Proud
and
moment for a
I
father.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's probably just because you're more powerful when you're younger, but he still outplays me because he literally, well, he only works Monday through Thursday, and so every Friday he's on the golf course, and probably a few more times than that. There's sometimes I've seen him play 4 times in a weekend, so there's a little more practice he has. But I want to get to the point where past bogey golf. I like bogey golf. The reason why is because low expectations. The people that get frustrated with golf are like, trying to get better. It's like, you're fantastic. Relax. Let's just have some fun.
You plan on
So
getting
if
the boys into it? That'd be a great
getting the
discipline.
boys into it. Yeah, so we're trying to get the boys into some sports and but we're not really pushing certain things. We just want to see what they're interested in right
I was
now.
just going to ask, have you seen any,
Um,
noticed any interests in them in anything? I mean, like you said, they're
well, I
very
got
different.
one in my older one is in Taekwondo. He wants to be a ninja. So
Who
Ninja
didn't as a little
Turtles.
kid? I mean, who didn't want to
Exactly.
be a Ninja Turtle, man? Or you remember the
Power
show,
Rangers.
what were the, my three brothers or
Yeah, the Three Ninjas.
three
I
ninjas?
watched that with him. Yeah, Colt, Rocky, and Tum
Bam
Tum.
Bam, Tum Tum. Call Rocky and Bam
So
Bam.
yeah, no, I actually watched that with my son George.
That's
And
awesome.
here's a fun story for you. When I was a kid, Power Rangers first came out. I remember
Mhm.
being there with my friends
Like
watching
the
the first
90s,
episode
early
air.
90s.
Yes. Um, when I was in Taekwondo back in the day, my uncle Dean went and he knew that I was really into this. he found out that Tommy, the Green Ranger, I think his real name's Jason, ironically, um, he went around the country teaching seminars, weekend seminars to kids. And, he's the Green Ranger. So of course we're gonna sign up. So he signed me up and I got to go and learn from Tommy the Green Ranger for an
That's
entire
awesome.
weekend. And I remember he liked my jump kick. He told me I had an awesome jump kick. And like that just made my year. Like little
Sure,
things like that. So
sure.
um my kids are obsessed with animals too, which is really awesome. I've really instilled that early on. We have dogs, we have cats, we have a saltwater fish tank. I got a Uromastyx we named Gonzo.
That's awesome.
And my kids love feeding Gonzo because they hand feed them the lettuce
Probably a good pet
and the
for a kid,
greens.
right? Like just as good, I'd say, as a bearded dragon. Maybe better for its own reasons, but that's cool.
Less handleable for little kids, definitely, because it doesn't hold
Really?
on. Yeah, at least from what I'm noticing. It can, but he likes to move a little bit too much. Like, so I really do hand walk it. To be honest with you, again, this is just one animal I've had. I've had a few bearded dragons. It's not just going to sit on me. I got to hold it in my hands. He likes to move and he'll come up and beg to get out, right? So he's kind of more like cat-like in
Huh.
he wants to touch you, he
Interesting.
wants to be around you, but then he wants to go away real quick. Um, but it is better for like feeding. A little less exciting, I guess, than if you're feeding roaches, but it's just easier.
Yeah,
Other
sure,
than the
sure.
heat, they're definitely easier. Their poop doesn't stink nearly as bad. So,
Rough.
and it's going to take time, but he's going to be super crazy colorful.
Do they get big? I don't know much about Uromastyx. I've never had one. Of all the things I've had, I never had the opportunity to have one. But I know how many species are. There's a lot of species of
There's a
Uromastyx,
lot
right?
of different species. There's only so many that you can get captive bred. I was looking at the Philbii. The Ornata is what I ended up with, the
That's what you
ornates.
got, right? The ornate.
Aired's only is where I got mine from. Philip Leeds is amazing. He just before I even got it, I had him on my podcast, but before that, I was just chatting with him, and he just gave me a ton of time. He's phenomenal. So if you guys are interested in
He's brilliant.
Uromastyx,
He sure is. He's a partner with one of our co-companies we work with, Happy Dragon. He's one
oh
of
yeah,
the experts, animal expert.
he is an expert,
But
and
I've read some of his articles and write-ups and stuff that he's doing for this platform we're working on, and
mhm,
the kid is brilliant for sure. And ironically, he's
yeah.
originally from Connecticut, where I live.
Oh, nice, a little connection there. Yeah, so he kind of walked me through, and helped me pick out this male, and it's been a great, super handleable. But the tricky thing is there's still a lot of imports, and that's a different beast is what
Where are
I've
they
been
from?
told.
Africa, the Middle East? Where do they
Middle
come?
East,
Yeah,
southern like Egypt, and areas of Israel, things like that. And the cool thing is, he was saying that some of these species are known to be on rock cliffs. So when they're younger, they're a little bit more arboreal. So I had them in a sort of semi-arboreal rock cliff custom background that I made. And that was really cool. You get to see them out a lot like that. Now I gave him a 4x2x2, more terrestrial. Now he's getting a little bit bigger. I didn't want him to fall. I was like, I don't need that issue. Um, yeah, but it's fun. So I actually just saw one in my local pet store, a full adult. I've never seen an adult
good.
in person. And so I mean, they get about the size of a large bearded dragon, about 2 feet. And they're chunky. So again, this is just the first one I saw. So if I'm wrong, put it in the comments, let us know.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, it was great. Had a
very cool.
blast. It'll
Good
be
for the
fun
boys to
watching that
watch that
develop.
grow up, raise them. You've had them from a baby. I mean, that experience in general, having children. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of teaching children how to care for animals, right? I mean, so
Hmm.
much translates into the real world as an adult human being from animal care. I mean, the responsibility to just having compassion and learning how to care. It's a good thing. I believe for you doing this with your children. I mean, it's awesome to see.
Yeah.
It'll make them better adults, better people, more exposure to things that I mean, you work in a school. How many kids probably never see a lizard in their life, let alone have the opportunity to care for and learn about them, even if it's something you don't go off on a venture on your own. It's a knowledge that they have in the database of, just
Well, I
random
think
knowledge.
also, I was listening, I forget where I heard this, but I listen to a lot of podcasts and things like that. But the theory that, you know, if you learn to like respect nature and respect animals, it does have a translation to human beings, right? Because you typically, for most people, right? You don't have kids until you're a little bit older, right? You're
Sure,
usually
good idea.
20s, 30s, right? And so when you're younger, to have that experience of putting yourself not into a mindset of what is it in it for me, right? That's a young man's game is why am I doing this for me, right? But to put yourself in someone else's shoes fully, you can do it in a lot of different ways, but it's a great way when you do it. Okay, this animal depends on me. Okay, what do I need to do to make this animal life better? And it could be a dog, it could be a cat, and I think the culture with pet keeping has definitely moved in the right direction with that. Even in the dog world, I used to be a dog trainer, and just the growth that I've seen in the last, 15, 20 years in that has really been positive.
Sure. Do you also take the boys to the zoos pretty much, huh? The zoo, do you have a zoo near you, or is that a zoo you
Yeah.
guys?
So
Okay,
I got married at the zoo. So not only did I get married at the zoo, I am the
awesome.
marriage advertisement at the zoo, me and my wife. So what's
That's
fun is when
awesome.
we go to the zoo, we have a season pass every year, and it's the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago. So if you guys are going to the Brookfield Zoo, as you enter the south entrance, you can see we're at in one of the signs as you first walk in, but we're also on like if you're leaving the south entrance, we're on one of the tall like pillar signs saying, "Hey guys, get married here." So it's fun. My son, they're so honest. I We were going there last year, and I go, "Yeah, you see mommy and daddy?" He goes, "That doesn't look like you." And I go, that's me." He goes, "You got fat," and I'm like, "Oh man."
That's funny. Do they
So I've
grasp the
been trying to lose
concept of
weight.
you guys before them? Like,
I'm sorry.
do they grasp the concept of like you guys before them? Like, do they know
My older
you
son
two before they
sort
were
of
born?
does. Yeah. I don't think he fully understands, but I think, he's starting to realize like, well, I've been alive 2 years longer than my brother, and it's like, like congratulations, man. Can you act like you've been alive
That's a
longer?
good age too, man. That's a great age to be. They
So
can grow up and be like best friends, and yet the older brother could still be an older brother and teach. I
yeah,
mean, me and I have three younger brothers, just four of us. We're all two
nice.
years apart. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
actually,
cool.
speaking of like, we're actually going to go visit a new zoo in a week. We got a
Awesome.
family trip planned to go. You know who the Wild Kratts are?
I feel like I've heard the name or I should, but elaborate. Maybe it'll click.
The Wild Kratts, it's a PBS show. It's also streaming on a bunch of different things, but it's a animated show. But it's actually two guys, the Kratt brothers, who have had multiple shows throughout their career. They're probably in their 60s at this point. They started back in our generation.
I think I know
Do you remember
exactly who you're talking about.
Zaboomafoo?
I
It was a Canadian like TBS kind of show, but it was a live action show when they were super young, and they had a puppet that was a lemur, and they
I
bring
do.
in live
Yes, yes,
animals.
yes, yes,
Yes, do you
yes. I
remember?
know. Yes.
You're talking.
Yes.
So it's those guys. They have a traveling show now, and I signed up for something back when my son was like super obsessed with them,
Cool.
and said, okay, if they're, I live in Chicago. Shows come through Chicago, of course, right? So I get the list of where they're going to be this year, and Chicago's nowhere near on the list. I'm like, what the heck?
Really?
And apparently these are hot item tickets, so they go pretty quickly. And so I call up my wife and I'm like, oh, what are we going to do? Is we use this as an excuse to go visit some friends. We're going to go visit, our friends and go see a brand new zoo, but we're going to go see them VIP, and then we're going to go backstage and meet them.
That
So,
is awesome.
these guys
Where
are
is it?
conservationists and St. Louis. So St. Louis
St.
Zoo.
Louis. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to bring the
Awesome.
boys there,
Cool.
and it'll be kind of a animal St. Louis weekend, which is not usually a thing.
That's
So
awesome. That's very cool. How does your
yeah,
wife handle three boys into animals? Is she into animals? Does she have an interest in? nature of any
Yes,
sort?
she's the one who wanted to get married at the zoo. So she
Really?
loves, yeah, she loves animals. And that was a big question our parents were asking is, are you pushing this, Bobby? You know, but she wanted it, and I was too happy to say yes. Um, Basically, she likes cute and fluffy. She doesn't love the reptiles. It was funny when I first met her. Apparently, one of her ex-boyfriends had a leopard gecko that scared the shit out of her. And so she was kind of like, I'm like, just relax. I will show you. They're a lot cooler than you think. Because I had leopard geckos in college, just as pets. And, so I've always kind of dipped my toe in here and there and had stuff for a while and left. It wasn't always breeding and really being this deep into it. But, again, she loves our cat. I'm allergic to cats, but we got a Maine Coon cat for her.
Those are
I
awesome cats, man. My aunt has a Maine Coon, dude. They're like the coolest. They are like, I
They're the
guess there's some
best.
new hybrid jungle things that look like little leopards that are cool. But as far as like regular, I guess a Maine Coon technically really isn't regular.
They're fully domesticated. They're the largest
Awesome,
fully domesticated cat. He's four
awesome
feet
cats.
long and he's 35 pounds. He's a
That is
monster.
awesome.
I couldn't find a litter box big enough. I had to go buy one of those massive storage tubs and make a custom one.
That's
You know,
cool.
so
That's cool.
yeah.
Where'd you guys get him? Did you get him from a breeder or did you
Yep.
just
Yeah,
really?
you have to. There's no any Maine Coon at
If you
a
want a
shelter.
quality one, because I've seen some that aren't like, they have
They're all
ear tufts,
mixes.
I guess, and people say it's a Maine Coon, but I'm like, I'm not so sure that that's like a real Maine Coon. Like there's
Hmm.
clearly differences like any other animal. There's a variation and variety within the same species, but I mean, there's
Yeah.
just better specimens for sure.
And even within breeders, you got to do your research kind of
Yeah,
thing
for
because they're
sure,
not cheap
for
and
sure.
people always are trying to make a buck. But the big thing is if you rescue, I used to work for a rescue when I was in high school. All four, we've rescued many dogs and things. And you can get people always look at me and go, "You paid for a cat? The most expensive animal you have? You paid for a cat?" Well, that was until I bought geckos. But and I'm like, well, yeah, because it's different. I couldn't get this at a shelter and I wanted something specific. And we have kids, and so I'm very particular. I've had friends who have cats that are great, but I've had friends cats that you can't come over to their house because they just attack you. They're very skittish or territorial, and they'll scratch. And I'm like, this cat. My kids can go and I teach my kids to respect animals, so they're not like yanking on 'em. But when they're little, like my kids pulled his tail a little bit, and some cats will just turn around and whack him, and then they got a scar. This guy is so chill and so good with other animals, and he's just been
Awesome.
socialized. He's amazing. He's the ringleader. I can't not feed my dogs on a schedule because he starts meowing exactly at 3 o'clock every day. Like as soon as I get home.
I
So,
can relate. Trust me.
yeah.
I feel the same way. Not that I want to talk about myself anymore, but I went through the same scenario with the dog. I'm a huge, advocate for shelters and adoption and whatnot, but they just weren't making my life easy, man. And I went and spent money on a
Mm-mm.
dog that someone would. I mean, you can definitely get a car for what I spent on my dog, and people look at me like, why wouldn't you just adopt one? There's 100 of them. It's not always as easy as you think, and there's a lot that comes with adopting a dog. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. If I could today walk into a
Mm-mm.
shelter and save a dog's life, I do, zero questions asked. But I could not get exactly what I wanted without buying it, and it's
You want me to go down that soapbox real quick?
you can sure.
I'm gonna get canceled for this, but honestly, I two things. One, I agree. There's so many great shelters, and there's some great people with great. You can pick up a great animal if you know what you're looking for. The problem is there's a lot of salespeople that are trying to just move animals, and they don't match the right dog to the right family in the right
Absolutely.
situation, and the dog
Absolutely.
ends up back or euthanized. There's that. The other thing is that there's that joke. Why wait for it to go and get into a shelter before you give it a good life? Because half of these animals are from either breeders or they're from down south because we live up north, right? How many stray dogs do you see other than a pit bull that got loose in the city?
I never really do, man, which is again ironic because
Never.
you hear all these shelters are full, but I've never seen a dog. Like I don't like.
Well, because again, I used to work in this industry, not work, I volunteered, right? But even in my short time there, they bring in dogs, they ship them in from down south. Now, down south, it's a different culture, right? And when they can't find them down south because there's nothing but big dogs and coonhounds down there, they ship in the little dogs from other countries down south. And
Okay.
it's like, wait. What? We're applying demand. And then those small dogs, because they're more desirable, they up. I mean, it's not cheap. At least where I live, it is not cheap to adopt. You know, you're looking at least yes, there's some like older dogs, or again because of pit bulls. I love pit bulls. I used to be a dog trainer. So there's some other. I trust some of those more than I'll trust a Dalmatian, right? Um, but those are the ones that we have locally, and those get overlooked for the little, Chihuahua mix, or the, terrier, little tiny yappy terrier mixes, because people want small dogs. That's why large breeds need their own shelters, because it's hard to place them. And a lot of the ones that are in shelters have health issues. That's the other thing is when you're dealing with dogs, two things. One, the health of the animal, it's lineage. Going back to
Big
geckos,
thing.
right?
It's a
It's
big
it's
thing. It's a big
lineage.
deal.
It's responsible breeder. It's not just putting two animals together. And two,
Absolutely.
temperament. One thing that geckos, I think there's a trend of having conversations about it, but it's the same thing with dogs. People breed certain breeds if they're good breeders for a certain temperament. My grandmother is
Absolutely.
a golden retriever breeder and she's been for
Absolutely.
40 years. Her dogs, it's crazy how similar their temperaments are. And when she has a dog that doesn't fit her temperament, if it's, let's say it's a female that's a little bit more possessive, or a more female aggressive, she'll discontinue that dog. It doesn't breed. She'll go, and reinvest and wait for the next, puppy, because it's important to have, when you're buying an animal, and this is why I bought my dogs too from a breeder, and I don't have Goldens. I'm the black sheep in my family, so I have Australian Shepherds.
Okay,
I
cool.
wanted specific traits. My dogs are bomb proof, and my family will tell you, they come over and you don't have to worry about your kids. Not that I trust dogs 100%, but you know, my kids are on laying on my dogs, pulling, having fun, and my dogs are just great, licking them, and it's
It's
that's something
hard to
that
get
peace
that
of mind.
from a
That's what I'm paying
pound.
for.
It's hard
You
to
know,
get that from a pound and be. I mean, I know you said you don't trust dogs 100%. I'm a bit different. I do. I trust my dog 100%, but that's
yeah,
because I got him. I mean, I had my dog paid for before. As soon as the litter was conceived and they confirmed on an ultrasound, I put a deposit down for a pick. You get a picks the litter, and I paid for the first pick from this litter because I like the parents. And
yeah,
the kennel advertises, right, which is something I like take pride in telling people, is the kennel where I got my dog from. The first part of their slogan is temperament, health, then structure, right? Like, and not that it
yes.
should necessarily be in that order, but for me personally, it's what I was looking for. Temperament. I have a lot of kids in my family.
There
Like,
you
I
go.
have to be like, it cannot be. I have to be 100% confident that nothing is going to happen to these kids. Like,
Hmm.
it's like not even an option, right?
It
And
has to be.
again, to make a long story short, a short story shorter, I mean, when my dog was this big, dude, I would wake him up, I'd pull his ears, I'd yank on his tail, just messing with
That's
him in
the
the
training
cage,
side of it. Yep.
desensitizing him to everything and anything that life could possibly throw at him, and it's worked. Now, when you're dealing with a shelter dog, sure, you could find a great one that someone maybe did that with, but are you going to really know? It's and again, I'm not bashing kennels, and I don't even want to talk
No,
much more because I don't want to sound like I am, because I am so for people adopting. Like, if you have the
it
opportunity
depends
and
on what your family
it
situation
fits,
is.
yes, it fits your family dynamic, and you feel comfortable, please save a shelter life, please,
Absolutely.
please. But if not, you should also shouldn't feel guilty, right? We shouldn't
But
be
I think
like,
what you're trying to say, and tell me if I'm wrong here, don't judge either way.
no,
Because
no, no,
don't judge the
no,
people getting dogs from
no,
shelters, and don't
absolutely
judge
not.
the people who go and buy dogs for a certain reason,
Facts. Judge someone on how their
because
dog acts. If you want to judge
yes,
someone that has a dog, judge them if their dog's a maniac, biting people,
right.
biting dogs. Pass your judgment there. Don't pass your
Yep.
judgment on where they got them from. Because I am a big advocate of, I do believe with the
Hmm.
proper attention and time, you can teach an old dog new tricks, right?
Oh
Like, you
yeah,
can absolutely correct bad behavior. You're a trainer. There you go. You can absolutely correct
just
bad
twice or
behavior.
three times as much work.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
But kind of going back to the geckos with this, though, kind of making this full circle, you have to do your research and you have to look at your situation and not just look at how long they're going to live. Like a dog's going to live, depending on the breed, 8 to 15, 20
I
years,
was
right?
hoping you were
On the
going to
high
say
end.
40 years.
I wish, but did you get an Australian cattle dog?
I got one of
Then
those
no.
American
Uh,
bullies, standard American bully.
so, 15 would be great. 18 would be even better. But my point is that, you know, I breed gargoyles, right? I picked a specific species that fits my current lifestyle and what I see myself in 5 years. With a lot of reptiles,
We're going to get
right?
into them
We
too.
s-
Yeah,
we see all different, species that look cool. But what can you take care of? What are you going to do the best by? And what's going to fit into your lifestyle where you're not going to want to offload it in a
what
year
makes
when
you
you're
happy
bored?
caring for, right?
Hmm.
Well, we can care for things, right? We don't always want to. Those are responsibilities. We do things because they are things we have obligated ourselves and our attention to. We don't always want to do them when they do them because that's the responsible thing, like bills. Nobody, you're not going to find anybody, at least I don't know anybody that's thrilled with paying bills, right? Like, but it's something we do. If you can find something and take care of it, like you're saying, for as long as you do, because you have the joy and the passion in what you do for the species you do with gargoyles, that's a beautiful combination.
Yeah. And it fits, your lifestyle. You got to get the right the dog, get the right breed. Don't go if you don't like to be active, don't buy a husky. You know, buy the French bulldog. If you don't have the time or the money to spend on the lighting and equipment for an animal that needs a new UVB bulb every 6 months, well, then maybe look into a crested gecko that's a little less maintenance. And so it's just making sure that you're setting yourself and the animal up to be successful and
Sure.
then enjoying it. So,
Absolutely, man. I couldn't
yeah.
agree with you more, man. It's so what are some of those things now that we're on the topic? What are some of the things that drew you to gargoyles? What attracted you to with all the options out there in New Caledonian
Hmm.
species, and you've told us a little about your past and some of the other species you've dabbled in. What made you settle on gargoyles, and how do they fit into your life, and walk us through some of those
So
similarities.
for me, I'm not someone that needs to have a lap buddy pet. I don't need a bearded dragon that's on my shoulder. I've had that. I didn't take the dragon out like I thought I would, right? Because A, they poop, and when they poop, it's a lot. And B, when you have other animals, you have to look at what else you have in your house. I didn't want to stress out the bearded dragon, and I didn't want to stress out or put away my dogs. So yes,
That
could I
Mancoons we got to
train
watch out
them?
for.
Yeah, well, that too, with the Maine Coon coming in the mix. So, you know, if you want to get a ball python or a bearded dragon, there's nothing wrong with it. They're great pets for the right people. But for me, I like something I could take out, handle, because that was important. I wanted something I could handle that I would feel comfortable with, that I could maybe share with my kids. And they fit the New Caledonians, they just fit the bill there, right? Now they're not going to sit there and watch TV with you. Some may get to that point, with kind of training and trust and building that, because I think they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for. But, they're also perfectly happy to be left alone. And so I like that aspect of them. I like the aspect of I don't necessarily need to do a ton of UVB with them. Now, I'm not saying that you can't. And now that I got Chewies, by the way, I did put UVB on them.
Strongly suggest that too. If I can give you one piece of advice about the Chewies, use UVB,
Yeah,
bud.
yeah, I got it on already. Went and bought it. So thank you, Amazon. So, but I got that going. And I just wanted something that, would be, I like change. Okay. I like having something to look forward to. And that was one thing with the animals that I had before. It was like you buy the animal, you set up the enclosure, you do all that fun stuff. And now it's just taking care of it. And that can be fun, but it's not different. It's not, it's very repetitive. And I know my personality. What I love about the gargoyles is I'm always looking to, okay, I put this pairing together. Ooh, if I go and not necessarily that I need to buy new animals, but there's always eggs. There's always, there's a season, but you get what I'm saying. Like, there's
Sure,
always something to look forward to or tinker
absolutely.
with, whether that be the enclosure, the actual animals, their hatchlings. I'm looking right now at my hatchling rack, and I'm going, okay, I've got certain things in there. I want to add a component to it. So I saw somebody had the what is it? The gutter guard, rather than just, you ever seen the gutter guard that you can put in? It's a flexible, like, kind of.
You know what gutter guard is, but what are they using it for with the animals? Oh, the
It's
mesh,
just for
just to
the
use for
yeah,
like
the
a
mesh
hide.
to cut it.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes,
It's
yes, yes.
just
They're
another
using
thing
like
for them to climb on.
the hornworm cups.
Yeah. So so I'm gonna try that with some artificial plants and the cork bark, because I always think there should be cork bark
Can I
so they
show
can
you
shed.
something real quick? And I
Please,
don't mean
yeah.
to interrupt you. Keep going.
No, go ahead. I
Mike
talk a
over at
lot.
Mike over at Parkour Geckos, and for everybody out there watching too,
Yeah.
huge shout out to Mike at Parkour Geckos. Mike has been working on some 3D printing designs, and he made
Nice.
these inserts for 6-quart bins.
Yep,
It's a
it
little
looks just
mesh
like it.
cage with a clip-on bowl and a hide.
Love it.
He made these, he prints them, he sells them. He sent me one to review and check out, and I think that they're absolutely amazing. They perfectly fit. I mean, granted, they're bigger than some people keep their hatchlings in, but if you're keeping your hatchlings in a 6-quart bin, this fits perfectly in a 6-quart bin, and it gives you everything you need, man. But sorry to
Love it.
interrupt. That made me think of
No,
you
no, no, but
talking
that
about
that that
this
looks very
mesh up here.
similar. Yeah. So I think that's the higher end, nicer version of what I was looking at. So,
Yeah,
but these are all things that you tinker with, right? I put in coconut, half coconuts in there for highs, and some of them love it. So I there's always just something new and exciting and new people to meet,
sure,
and I love that about the gargoyles. That's really what kept me in this.
sure.
So yeah,
That's
and the
awesome.
red. I mean, my favorite color is blue. Believe it or not, it's
Mine
not
too.
red. But my second favorite color is red. And when it comes to just how vibrant it can be, and the oranges, and I like crested geckos. I think they're really cool. But I also like to not get what everybody else has.
Sure. If you like change, you're in the right spot, Bobby. There's so much
Yeah,
uncharted waters in the Garg world
I
that
see
from
that.
what I've gathered from you about the type of person you are, you're in the right spot, man. You know, you there's just so much unknown. You can actually play a hand in new discoveries, not that you can't in crested
Mhm.
geckos, guys. I'm just saying that for the type of person Bobby is, it's you always have something new to pay attention to. Things are always changing. It's it is from the outside looking in, it's a good
Yeah.
match. You guys are a
I
good
appreciate that. Yeah, and like you said, there are things coming out, and people are trying to prove them out, and you're having fun talking to people, even if I don't own them.
yeah, sure. It makes it
I
exciting. The
it
hope of
it's
the
it,
anticipation. It's like to see someone
right.
else succeed. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think everybody feels like us, but I love seeing my friends discover something new. Like
Hmm.
I am as happy for you. It's almost like it's in my collection. Like we're cool. I'm gonna see
Yeah.
the pictures before anybody else. Like it's just as cool. Like how can you not be ecstatic for somebody?
Not only am I ecstatic for other people when they get cool stuff, but here's my thing. I don't understand people who look at other breeders, and especially good breeders, and see them as competition. They're not my competition. They're my best damn customers. Like, I buy from the best people I know, and I try to become, whether we're good friends or just acquaintances, it doesn't really matter. But my point is that, like, they're not my enemy. They're not my
I agree.
competition. We're all working maybe on slightly different projects or slightly different angles, but as long as you're treating the animals well, right? And you're in love with the same thing I'm in love with, you're my buddy, you
Sure.
know? And my best sales I've ever done, my biggest sales, are people that are just like you and I, and just like the people that are probably watching this. They're obsessed with the animal, and they're probably breeding. So, I don't understand
Absolutely.
the whole, like, oh, I won't sell to this person because I don't want them to have my project.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Why
I,
don't they might do something cool with it? Then you
yeah.
can do the same thing.
I don't understand either, and it's something that I'm really trying to suppress with this podcast is the negativity in the hobby and show people that we don't have to work on the same things. We don't even have to keep the same species. We don't have to live in the same state. We don't have to like the same food or have the same religion. We all have one thing in common, and that one thing that we have in common is what makes us alike. And because of that one thing, we should all be friendly with each other and humble, learn, teach, you know,
I mean, we don't have to
work,
like everybody in the
you know.
industry, but be respectful. And I don't know. One other thing about the Gargs that I've noticed, and there is drama. Don't get me wrong. There are people who bicker with gargoyles, but I don't see it as much. It's kind of nice sitting over here in this club and watching the other kind of clubs bicker amongst themselves and go,
It's
I don't have to
unfortunate.
worry about it.
It's
You know, but
definitely
it's
unfortunate.
okay. I mean, but for all the bickering you see, I see the love too. You saw flora
Sure,
fauna and you see the love there, you know, so
sure,
it's all the bigger things get, the more successful a creature like a crested gecko gets, the more you're gonna get this kind of stuff.
sure.
Just like when I first started, I think I didn't hear a negative thing about myself, right? And I still don't see myself as someone big, but I know that my name's out there. I get on podcasts and have fun doing
You
this,
have a
right?
known brand, yeah.
But it's crazy how much gets back to me if people shit talk to me, and I'm like, I could get mad about it,
Really.
or I could say, "Oh yeah,
What could
it's
anybody
funny.
say about Bobby?
It's funny stuff." Like I laugh at it because I'm like, I know myself, and if people really thought that, okay, fine, you know, it's not going to keep me up at night. But my point with it is that means that I'm doing something right. If I could get noticed where people are starting to like say shit about me, great, cool, you know.
Still has to be said,
Uh,
though. It's no offense. Please
no, I
don't take any
appreciate you
offense.
saying
You're
that.
one of like the most harmless people there is. You've never said a bad thing about anybody. Like, what could anyone overly care for your
It's all
animal?
coming from my wife, I think. No, I'm
I
kind of
mean,
kidding.
it's got to be some ploy to do something, right? Someone's clearly
I don't think
making up a
anybody's
lie
after me. I
about
think just
something for some type of.
yeah. I
God
think
bless you for
people
dealing with it.
people
I
people
mean,
get
that
jealous
must
because
suck.
I'll have a little small brag. I have nice animals now. I've got some crazy nice animals now, and I think I got these imports from Europe that I mean just
Did you
stupid
just get
luck.
some imports from somewhere? Did you just
Yeah, from Europe. So I
talk to us about
imported.
that? I'm curious about that. How
Oh,
that
that
whole
was
thing went.
awesome. Okay, so get this. I go and I'm always searching just for fun, right? I like
Yeah.
change. So
Where'd
I'm
you
looking on
find them?
Facebook. I'm on Facebook. It was a European Facebook group for gargoyle geckos. I check it all the time. And there was just this post, 8 geckos for sale, right? Message me. I looked at those geckos. I'm like, those are going to be stupidly expensive. Maybe I'll be able to buy one. And they weren't cheap. I'll put it that way. They were not cheap. But when he gave me the price, I go, I could leverage stuff and get them all, you know? And I didn't leverage everything I had to buy them all. I kind of, if you're the person I'm about to mention, I'm still glad I worked with you. Put it that way. But I instead of me buying them all, I reached out to a buddy who was already buying a gecko from me, who's new in the hobby, and he's an awesome guy. He's an up and coming guy, and in the next year you'll get to know him a little bit better. Um, Basically, I said, "Hey, I don't have all the money to buy these things. Do you want to buy two? I'll buy four. You buy two, and we'll split the cost on shipping." You
Awesome.
know, and he was in. He was in 100%. He was in, and so we ended up pulling our money together, buying them, and they all had eyebrows. Every last one had head color, eyebrows, six beautiful dark stripes, and it had a very, I call it a European look. The gargoyles in Europe are
There is.
definitely
There
different.
absolutely is. And all the new cow species, too. I think there's a European look,
Yep.
all of them.
And sometimes they mix well with the American look, and sometimes they don't. I'm really interested in that. There's some friends I talk to all the time about how the genetics play with each other. I don't think they're different species. I just think they're different line bred traits that stack, and when you mix them, they can get a little bit muddy. But long story short, with that, um, the guy he was an unknown, right? He had one pair of gargoyle geckos he picked up from Ham a while ago. The parents did not have head color, um, but he was just very upfront, honest with me. I did reach out to somebody just to vet him, like, hey, do you know this guy? He goes, oh yeah, he's a vet. He's an actual vet. So he's just, he's a passionate guy that I got him from. He lives in France.
What's his
and
name?
it
Does he have
was
a company? You want to shout his name out?
Alberto Emmy is his name. He doesn't have a company. He has a vet business in France. And now everybody's going to go bother him. So have fun with that. But yeah, no. And the funny thing is so he definitely, after he shipped him, he goes, "I'm a man of my word. You paid for him. I'm gonna ship him to you." But he goes, "I want you to know." People reached out and
Tell
they
me.
said, "You got a hell of a deal." And I go, "I know I did, and thank you." Because I mean, these things could go for $8,000 each. The one girl I have is just stupid. I mean, this is tomato
Hey,
line
let me bring up some.
filled
Keep talking.
shrimper.
I'm sorry. I'm going to bring up some pictures of it
Yeah,
and fill them off here. Because I
thank you.
remember you sent me the message showing me some, dude, and I think that they're absolutely incredible animals.
Yeah, so I ended up getting four. I did trade one, and for something that I couldn't afford if I didn't trade it. And yeah, that's her right there. Go up right
This
there.
one,
Nope, the one to the right.
am I right?
She's only 10 grams, man.
Didn't you get some? Did you get a super blotch, or was that super blotch one you
Yes,
pursued?
so that's the one I traded for. The Super Blotch, that male also that I just got for my buddy. These are my trios. So that's my current breeding Super Blotch trio. They're producing
I
some crazy
love this
stuff right
group,
now.
dude. I love this group, Bobby. You
It's
may
two
get me. You
sisters.
may get me into gargoyles. Well, I do have a pair, but
Yeah.
this is
So yeah, I've got the two girls in there are from Darren from well, I'm gonna blank on this. It's not Fireside. Dang it. He's a firefighter. Firehouse Geckos LLC.
Firehouse. Yeah, they always get
He's
me
awesome.
confused too. Firehouse and Fireside, both of them. Or is there
Both
two?
great breeders.
Two both? Yeah,
There's
okay.
two firehouses. There's
They're both
Firehouse LLC
Firehouse.
and Firehouse, yeah, Geckos,
Yeah,
and then Guard Queen male. So that's a Vapona male. So he's super potent. His son, and so I'm really excited for this one.
have they produced for you already?
Yeah, I got some
Yeah.
crazy. Actually, you can
Just
see
gonna
one of the
ask, where'd
babies.
this
That
come
one right
from?
there.
To say
That's that's
this thing is gonna be awesome,
it's a
dude.
week old, and there's two. So if you let it keep playing, it's both of the kids. They're almost identical. There you go, and that's not fired up. So
What would a
again, at
baby
a
like
week
that
old,
go for? What does a baby
well, I
like
wouldn't
that
sell it.
cost? Well, for someone that was I don't know much about Gargs. I'm being sincere when I ask.
No,
I'm
no, no,
just
no.
curious how much something like that would what could it like that thing has she's got color on on its lips too. If I wanted to go buy something
Yeah,
like that, what could I find something like that for?
you're looking at least I mean, the problem is at that age, no one's going to sell it because it's only,
Oh,
but
really?
as it develops, yeah, I would say most people are going to start letting things go. The earliest I let things go is 3 months and 5 grams, and I'm not going to do that this year, I don't think. I think most people want to have it at least till 10 grams. Blotches, from what I'm just starting to get into really keeping high-end blotches, but what I've been told is that around 10 to 15 grams, they really tend to explode. So that it looks this nice, this young, I can only imagine what it's going to look like at 15 grams or more. So I'm excited for that aspect of it. Stripes, I've gotten to the point where I know what that stripe's going to look like straight out of the egg. Very seldomly do I know get surprised with my stripes. That's the female I picked up, Dragonborn Exotics. Dude, that guy is killing it. Ryan, he's killing it in a lot of different ways. Chewy I got was from him too, the
Well, no,
female.
we're gonna hold off on that one. But
Yeah. But this is Christmas. I named her because every day is Christmas when I open up her enclosure,
damn
and
sure is.
I mean she is just insane.
How was the import process? So did the geckos actually ship from France?
So yeah, well, what happens is it's through the ham show. So I ship through
Oh,
Calubra.
yep, yep.
There's a few companies, and I just there's actually they all have really decent reviews, but I ended up shipping through Calubra, and it was I think $65 an animal plus what was it, 65 $75 an animal, and then I had to pay domestic shipping here, so it really wasn't bad at the end of the
Much
day.
cheaper than I would have expected.
A lot cheaper. Yeah, it's not like other places that you can ship from. I mean, Canada's expensive to ship from, which is crazy, but they had to be labeled a certain way. The communication was they had to be dropped off at the ham show at a certain location. I actually bought from two different people. I bought if you go to my stripe group, the orange stripe group, I got a ready to breed proven female. And so
This
that
group
girl up top, no, uh, group up a little higher. Yep, right there. So the girl on the bottom there, Bermuda, she's an import this year. So I got her
those
specifically
are
to breed with
thick
Magnus.
stripes, man. Those are thick.
Oh, she's and yeah, and again, I feel like I got a deal. It was thousands of dollars, but my perspective has changed over the years of how much a gecko should cost. I would
Sure,
think I'm
sure.
nuts 3 years
I'm
ago.
still a sucker for your Gecko Eve, man.
I sold her.
No.
Yeah, I got an offer I couldn't refuse, and
Damn,
someone who
dude,
really
you
loved
built your
her.
name on that gecko, bro.
I
Damn, dude.
did, but like I said,
He
not that I
was
just have to
beautiful,
do
man.
change.
That just overall, and I get it. Like, I see what you're looking at, type of thing. But for someone that's
Yeah.
like not into like breeding guards per se to look at,
Mhm.
I enjoyed every time she would pop up on my feed looking at that animal.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I've got her babies incubating right now. I'm waiting for them to hatch any day. I was hoping I'd have a baby to show you tonight, but it's going to another great person that's going up and coming breeder. I'm giving her a chance to breed with them. I just, I can only focus on so many things, and
Sure, sure.
red base is one. If I'm going to focus on red base, I've decided I'm going to focus in on blotches, red base, red super blotches, and Eve through stripes pretty consistently. And there's nothing wrong with her, but I didn't want to throw her in one of my stripe groups.
Makes sense.
And, I kind of looked at it as, I'm going to give someone else a chance to that really really loved her to work with her. And again, I didn't give her away. Uh, they paid for her. But I appreciate the kind words because yeah, I think that her red definitely kind of put me on the map for a little bit.
Yeah, man. I got a
So
question here. You mentioned red base, right? And again, everything I'm asking is 100% sincere, dude. I do not know
yeah,
about gargoyles.
please.
When you're caught, see this middle, this is, I don't know if it's a male or a female, but this middle animal here has like a super pale base color, like almost a white, right? Like a gray.
Yeah, that's
What would that
Magnus.
base color be in comparison to these other two? Like, there's clearly a difference, right? Like, these other two won't fire down to a white that color, right?
Some do. I would say that Hawaii does. The yellow stripe above
Really?
does.
Okay,
Yeah.
so those would be considered
Um,
the same base color. What is that base called? What do you call those? What would that base color be called?
I mean,
White?
it looks more washed out with the lights there than he really is. I would say just kind of that brown, light brown base for
Really?
those animals. Yeah.
That middle one?
The middle one, he's just fired down fully. Actually, I was kind of mad he was fired down for the photo shoot
Huh.
because he's gorgeous, fired up too. I mean, most people like him fired up,
I
stripes a little bit
love that
more.
contrast. It's like David's
Hmm.
Tiki's shirt. It's the white and the red. Like, I love that look. Like, I
It is
love
sharp. Yeah,
very,
and
very.
Magnus was a gecko. I don't know. Did you
I
ever
know the
watch Red
name. I
Rack?
know the name. Yup, yup, yup. I
Okay,
know that he's been
so
passed around a little bit. No, or does somebody else has them or had
well,
them or
no. That was
babies,
the fun thing. So
babies?
Goliath Reptiles owned him and it loaned him to Jake, with a deal that they had. And then when Jake jumped back out of the hobby, it went back to Goliath. So it's always been owned by
Okay.
Goliath, produced by Johnny Rax. Um, I just, it's one of those things when you're first getting into it, there's geckos that you just idolize and you think they're the coolest thing and you're learning so much from them. And that was my gecko that I was like, if I could ever get a baby from that. And I'm talking to Goliath and I'm like, do you have any babies? He goes, I want to get out of gargoyles altogether. You want to buy my collection? And I'm like, I don't have money to buy your collection. Magnus alone, I feel bad, doing it. And he goes, will you help me sell my geckos and get me out? I only have like six. He goes, if you can help move my geckos, I'll give you a deal on Magnus. You can buy him. Cool. Awesome. We did it.
Did it?
We did it.
You got that Gecko Magnus?
Yeah, that's him. That's the one you like.
What?
Yeah.
I was just
I'm, s-
talking to someone that was talking about them. To Gecko Monster. You know Mauricio.
yeah. Yeah.
Mauricio's a
Marissa's
cool cat,
awesome.
man. So I was talking to him, and he's got some. Right? He has Magnus babies. He's got Magnus
He
or
might.
something
The
from the
best
same
Magnus
line.
baby ever produced went to Mr. Gargoyles. flipping insane. You know what Jake produced with his Cleopatra with her.
Well, yeah, I'm not really
I've
out
been
of touch
trying.
with the gargoyle world, guys.
That's
So don't
okay,
like quote me on any of this. Bobby's the professional here. I'm just trying to
but yeah, I mean,
grasp.
he's got some awesome stuff, and he's got some imports that are European. I think that Magnus has some European influence if you look at the way he looks. So I'm really interested to see how he interacts with that European
That's
female
good.
that I
Good for
got.
you, man. Good for you. Good for you.
So
Because I don't know
yeah,
the animal
it'd
per
be
se,
like
like I
someone getting a
said, but the
Deadpool or
name. I know the name, and I know that name of that gecko. I've heard time and time and time again. That's a statement piece, man. That's
in
a
my
statement
opinion, the
animal, man.
top four known males, not that there are not better males, but the top four known gargoyle breeding males are Deadpool's obviously number one. You've got Pennywise, who David also
It's always
coined,
on the
and
ball.
it was
Yeah.
awesome. You've got Magma, who
Maybe
Jake also owned.
Magma's the one I was thinking.
Yeah, J Reptiles now owns that and has produced actually one of my girls that's, just amazing.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and then Magnus, he had both Magma and Magnus and produced two of the craziest babies like that we've seen that are on David's level.
And
So it's cool.
males are hard altogether, aren't they? Males are a hard thing to come across in general, or
Not that males are hard to come across anymore,
really? I
but
thought they were
you
like a
want it
super.
to get males that throw really crazy babies consistently. And just I don't know, like
Someone was telling me,
we're
I don't
still
know
trying to figure it
who,
out.
that they were a super. It was like a female heavy. They were a female heavy
They are.
species.
They are, but then there's that theory of male makers, and if we're
Yes, I
always
talked
holding
to
back male
Paul
maker
about that. Yeah.
babies, yeah, then we might flip it where males are more prevalent.
Have you noticed
People,
anything with that? Have you noticed anything with
yeah,
the babies?
yes and no. So okay, I incubate hot. I incubate humid and I incubate hot, and my geckos come out within 60 to 70 days on average. If you did that with a crested gecko, it'd have no crest. It has no effect from what I can tell. My geckos come out with beautiful horns and great structure. And I asked Paul about it. He said it's all about the humidity. So I keep them in enclosed things with no holes in it, and I give it air every so often. But there's a lot of humidity in those containers.
Yeah, I do the
Um,
same.
so I'm kind of testing it a little bit because I dropped my temperatures this year. I produced a ton of males, but I had one male proslin who produced 80%, 90% of my babies. Well, if he's a male maker, that would make sense, right? But some people still think that they're heat sex dependent, and they argue that.
They're both. I hear people swear to both, bro.
And I don't know. And here's the thing is, I'm always I'm always like, what's the right word?
You could use pessimism, pessimistic.
No,
You know,
not
you have some
pessimistic.
passion.
I'm more, I question things. I'm very skeptical. That's a better word for it. I'm more skeptical of just people saying it's this way. It's always been this
Yeah,
way.
got to try yourself, dude. Sure.
But then the other side of me says, the man, Paul, says it's this way, and he has more gargoyles than like the top next four gargoyle people combined.
Paul's
I
brilliant.
mean, I rarely doubt what Paul says as wrong. Still question it, but you know,
You
in a
wouldn't
healthy
take it
way.
offensively if you did. Paul's a
No, he
solid
doesn't.
dude, man,
He's
and I think he'd
awesome.
almost be he was a great podcast, man. Me and Paul talked for
Hmm.
literally 2.5 hours, bro, before I hit record. Like
I
people didn't
believe
even
it.
see half of the conversation. Like me and Paul could talk forever. Like he's and he would even encourage you. In all honesty, if he said something, he would encourage you to try it yourself. But he knows what he knows. And
Absolutely.
someone that's confident in what they're talking about does that. Someone that's thoroughly confident in what they're saying would encourage you to try it yourself and figure it out. Like it's. But nonetheless, I think that you should experiment. It's one of those things like you were saying earlier that brings you joy. Is the constant change, right? You have
Yep.
the opportunity and the means to do different things. Experiment, bro. It's not like you're going to kill the animals. You're just doing one of two
Oh,
things. Have a blast.
yep. Having
It's super
fun.
cool.
So, and you just keep looking. You got my girl here,
Yeah,
right? Coral.
I got some questions here. And I have more things I'd like to say.
Yeah,
This would be considered a striped animal? Is
absolutely.
this
Yeah,
so?
that is a Some people would call that like an ultra stripe. It's a six striped animal to me, but
Okay.
a this is one of the most high end six stripe animals I
All right.
own
See,
from.
see, in my opinion, I think so also, right? I know a lot of people like those
Yeah.
very distinct straight lines. I love when these lines break up like that and they almost, have a heartbeat line in between them,
Hmm.
where they go up and down. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
So my prediction with this is that that back's going to fully close. You will not
Really.
see any. She's only a year old. She actually just laid duds at a year old. I'm pretty excited, and she's a good size at a year old. She'll be
She nice
breeding,
horns too.
potentially next year. Yeah, she's got
Very
great
nice horns.
structure.
She's
Her
got the
parents
color on
are
her lips there. She's
crazy
she's
consistent.
knockout. 10 out of 10 animal right there.
Yep. And funny enough, I almost got her as a hatchling. I was almost worked out a deal with Brian at Koala for this gecko. It fell through for nobody's fault. Nobody was
Horrible.
upset with the deal. Um, and Brian was so cool about it. And I always kind of check back in on this girl, right? And then all of a sudden he posted her on Morph Market for an obscene amount, kind of awesome price. And I had a baby that we were looking at maybe doing a bloodline swap, maybe I give him some cash, and I was just so excited to finally get the girl I wanted for over a year, and so there's a lot of long games. Just because something doesn't work out doesn't mean the universe isn't going to throw you something else.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the cool things I've
Sure.
learned in
Sure.
this hobby is that you know be a go-getter but be patient. Do the do them
The
at the
color
same
coming out
time.
of her eyes. That's
Yeah, so the
cool.
face is starting to go. Her mom is one of the brightest orange animals you've ever seen, Electra. And then the dad has just produced some amazing stuff, Blaze. I just her siblings in this year are some of the best geckos I've seen, just consistently. So to have those genetics, I'm honored. I'm blown away honored. I never thought I'd own something like this soon.
I don't I don't know much about gargoyle progression. Can you
Hmm.
walk me through how do gargoyles progress from like when they're born color wise until fully done gaining color? How does that whole thing work with these guys? What have you noticed?
So what I've noticed is it depends. So like, okay, so that gecko there, that's my magma baby, right?
See, he's
She's
got
more
it going all the
orange.
way up his head.
Yeah, and I wish I
Beautiful.
had some baby photos I could show you. Um, the face stuff really grows that I've noticed. Not always, but typically. She just had speckles, a little bit of like freckling as a baby. Her back
Good
was really
good
nice,
amount
and
of head
that's
color.
her best feature. But again, you can see it's starting to
I
close.
was
It's
just gonna ask, will
closing.
that close? Will that close? It
I
looks like
think
if you're
so,
asking,
or it'll
how
be
old
damn
is this one?
close.
How old is
That's a
this?
year old as well.
Oh, so it's not. Again,
It's not
walk
even
me through the
fully grown.
progression. When do they stop gaining color?
I mean, they'll gain color for 3 years.
No shit, really.
Yeah, especially if they're not breeding. Breeding tends to fade color on animals. If you look at my groups, they're not as bright as these geckos, but they used to be. But that's little white love marks, whatever you want to call them. They get a little white pepper all over them. I. But it's a stress, just like when people get stressed and they get a little bit older, they get a little bit more gray hair.
Tell me
You
about
know.
it.
So
This is a super attractive animal, also, man.
thank you. And
So,
so
what do you
okay, you can
call
see
this?
she's not a six stripe.
Yeah, I was just
She's a
gonna ask. What do
quad.
you call that?
She's kind of a cross between a quad stripe, which is just the four back stripes merged together, and she's got blotching on the side. And you know, this is not something I typically pick up. I typically want to see a solid stripe on the side if I'm looking at high-end animals. But you look at her leg coverages, you look at her face coverage, you look at how that color is trying to spread around her body. And that's the one thing I love about Deadpool line when you get the right Deadpool line is that to me is spreading genetics. Some geckos stay within their lanes. Literally, the stripes will stay in a stagnant area. But you start to see that fuzzy sort of like it almost looks like, those old TV static. That's when potentially, again, you can't guarantee you want to look at the lineage. That stuff's going to spread as it develops. And that's the stuff that turns into the holy shit, what is this gecko? You
Pixelated
know?
around the edges.
Right. And the head color too, I think that once we start breaking out of some of these rigid, strict lines, some people mix in blotch genetics. I think that helps. Some people are eh, there's a lot of different strategies. I think where it's the Wild West right now. But yeah, those are just a bunch of male holdbacks I have. So maybe I'll keep them all, maybe I won't.
Yeah, I voted on
Um,
this somewhere. That's me right there. I
Thanks.
voted on this.
There you go.
I think I was
So
going with A all day, man. I think A is awesome. I just love that look though for that.
A is one of those
Oh God,
geckos
what
that I
happened?
have. Yeah, thanks for reporting that.
That skeleton blotch looking number there, I think is incredible.
Yeah, so that one there, again, it's fired down. You like the contrast when they're fired down, and I love that with blotches too. So yeah, that's the same baby like the day it
Oh, it
was
is. I was
born.
gonna say, what are you making over there that they're all coming out like this?
Yeah, no, when that egg hatched, because again, when I've had enough stripes hatch out where I know what a good stripe looks like as soon as it comes out, right? And I can get really excited. Not that they can't develop, but man, a really nice one comes out. Just you got to see it to believe it.
So is this safe
Um,
to say you're partial to stripes, Bobby? Do you prefer stripes over the blotches?
no, I'm just more familiar with them. And again, this year with that, when that hatched out, I got as excited as I was with my stripes. The thing is with it's just I don't know it yet. I only had when
That's
the
exciting.
girl Bimini produced my best babies last year, and she was a blotch, and I bred her to a stripe, and I got the best stripes I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah, one of the males on the verses is my only holdback. Um, so it's been, yeah, it's the stripe top one. It's still young and it's orange. So that to me is going to turn red based on the genetics. But if it stays more orange longer, I tend to see it become a brighter red versus the one down below has been deep red its almost its entire life. And that's going to get to be like not maroon, but that deep blood red. So everything the color from what I've learned from people who are a lot smarter than me is it's stacking. And so it's a spectrum of red and orange with these animals. And the pattern color tends to progress as they get older towards red. It typically does not fade unless they're breeding. So like even if you go up back to the top to my orange trio, those animals are unique in that they stayed orange their entire life. And not only orange, but Hawaii. I have a lot of Hawaii fans, probably more Hawaii fans than I did Eve fans who reach out and say that that's their favorite gecko because you don't see pattern color that stays yellow.
I was just going to ask you about that. Is this unique? Because I don't see,
Very.
Paul is probably the only one I've know that makes these yellow animals. Like I don't
Yep.
know that. I
There's
guess you
there's
call that.
one
I
or two
mean, it's
other
more
people that
orange,
say
but
they're working on them, but I haven't seen them.
no. I've seen
And they
Paul.
won't
Paul has
sell me a
yellow,
male.
black and yellow guards, bro. Paul's got black and yellow gargoyles, man. They're like, which
Yeah. And a lot of the
often,
time the yellow I see is base color. And that's the other thing with gargoyles is like you were asking earlier, there's base color like Eve had, and there's pattern color.
yes.
There's a difference. And then, there's other aspects that go we can really get into the weeds. But these are all things that, people like Paul are isolating in his groups, and he
Okay.
focuses on one thing at a time to
Yeah.
stack the
Okay.
trait. Where I'm not doing that, I don't have enough animals, but I am still sort of doing it with a purpose, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. Do you, Paul? I guess when we talk, I mean, from what I gather,
Hmm.
he likes to separate and isolate genes,
Yes,
so that,
exactly what I'm
you
talking
can
about.
bring them together and do other things with, and once you have a pure isolated gene or trait, you can almost plug it into a project with more certainty. I guess someone would try to do. I
That's
don't
exactly right.
really know,
Yeah,
but
I just
it's
don't have the space or the funds to buy
no,
that
for
many
sure, for sure,
geckos.
for sure. My question is, have you noticed, because we've talked about some other things that would almost contradict that, like
Hmm.
discussing that every gargoyle potentially they all have the same genes, right? Every gargoyle has the same genes typically. When they're born, like playing roulette, should the dice line
Hmm.
up, you get these combinations like how do I explain it? He explains it so much better than I
I
can. I
watched your
always sound like an
podcast with him.
idiot when
I
I'm
totally understand what you're saying. So basically, yeah, it's the way I understood it. And again, I don't want to speak for Paul, right? Because I'm not him. But the way I understood what he was saying is that it's the lineage of the animal has all the lineage of all the animals that came before it. And those genetics are still within the animal. And even
yes,
though
okay,
you're focused on one thing, those genes can pop up. So, like, for example, if all of your family members have, perfect 10 toes and 10 fingers, right? But all of a sudden, one of your great great aunts was polydactyl. Okay. Well, maybe a baby pops out that's polydactyl,
okay,
because
yes,
you still have that in your genome. It just wasn't visible in the generation that you were working with.
right. So like
That's the way I took it.
yeah, so that's basically what I was trying to explain. I'm just trying to use his
Yeah.
words and
His
analogy,
language.
and I probably shouldn't have. But like Phantom Eye, like technically every gecko carries the marker for Phantom Eye, and with the right combination and pairings,
You
you
can bring
get
it out
Phantom
faster.
Eyes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because most older animals I see it have it.
really, have you what I wanted to get at was have you ever
Yeah.
paired two red stripes and thrown a yellow blotch or an orange blotch? Have you ever gotten anything like completely right field out of a pairing that you were almost certain about?
Mm, no, I mean, I've gotten two stripes and I get a blotch, but other than that, no, nothing's really
It's all
like
the same color
crazy.
though. Like your reds are making
Typic,
you reds.
yeah, for the most part, or they're not like I'll have a six stripe animal and breed it to another six stripe animal, and all of a sudden I get a quad stripe with broken laterals. Like nothing crazy, right? It's just not a high expression, high
What's this
quality
called? What's this?
baby.
Is this yellow? Is this called a yellow? What do you call this? An orange?
I
Does
You
this
could call it
fire up to
unique.
these colors? Or that is
That's
its color?
fired up. That's
That's
fired
what I'm
up.
saying. So
Um,
what's your goal with this group? What are you trying to accomplish by putting a red with that orange? Are
I
you
still
trying
think she's a pale orange. Like I don't know enough to say she's 100%, 100% a yellow stripe,
she's clearly
if
different, Bobby.
but
She's
she's
clearly
different. She was
yeah.
my first gecko, dude. She was my
Really?
very first gecko. I got her from my local pet store with no lineage.
What's that one's name? What is her name?
Hawaii.
Oh, that's Hawaii right there.
That's Hawaii.
Oh, okay,
So
okay,
she's my
okay.
little
Well, that's
Hawaiian
what all the
pineapple.
hype is. Because I'm looking, I'm like, something's clearly different about this animal.
Yeah. Yeah, she
Okay,
was my very
okay,
first gecko. I'll never get rid of her.
okay.
And she's actually my best producer too. She's just a beast. Yeah, she really she throws lighter colors. So like I'll pair her to a red male, like I paired her to Proslin. Most of the babies come out like an orangish sort of in between. I don't know enough to say I know how it all works, but I would guess that she's just a very, very, very low orange that looks yellow to me,
Do
right?
you think that that's a
And so I'm pairing all the
possibility?
oranges.
Do you think that's a
What?
possibility that all yellow is in general is just a weak expression of red?
Yeah, so one example that I was thinking about, when listening to your podcast, earlier was I, okay, going back to dogs for a hot second. Do you know what a blue merle, Australian Shepherd, or
Absolutely,
any blue merle
absolutely.
dog is?
Yep,
So if
absolutely.
anybody's watching this that doesn't know what merle is a gene that's a color disruptor. So a black dog that has a merle gene, it affects the black pigment and reduces it in blotches all over, and it can go from uh, leaving it black all the way to like a silver to a kind of a pale silvery white, right? And the combination makes it look bluish in the right light. That's why they call them blue merles.
Beautiful.
So there's also a red version of it too with brown, just diluting it. But with that, the gene, when I was looking to breed, you want to test because if you breed two merles together, it can be a fourth of the puppies come up blind or deaf because they have so much of that stacking genetics, right? That they become white dogs or primarily white dogs with blue eyes, and have other health issues. The reason why I bring that up is because I think when we're thinking about like a chain, right? You're going to see a visual with a certain length chain of genetics, but if you have too much of it, or if you have a lot of it, it could either be just a high expression with no health issues, or in some genetic markers or traits, it could lead, like lily white, to a potentially fatal gene or one that causes deafness or other issues. And so pattern and color in gargoyles, I see it as that kind of, we're stacking that and just making that longer. Now, I haven't seen any health issues, so I'm not saying that, but it's something I'm looking out for, right? If we get to the point where this gecko is even more covered or her kids are even more covered because I paired her to the right male and I keep stacking that, super ultra blotch, and all of a sudden I notice that they get a bald head, or I notice that, they got a head wobble or something. And again, I have never seen that. It's something I'm looking for because I know kind of how, in just compared to other animals, how genetics can sometimes
Is
play.
there any known well, I guess you would need a genetic mutation, but is there any known like fatal? Well, there's no genes, right? So there's no
There's
fatal
no official
anything in
genes.
gargoyles,
No,
right?
no, not that I've seen. So,
Interesting. What do you think about that? How do you feel? Do you think that that's something that's possible? Do you think it's just something that hasn't been discovered yet? Do you feel like there's
oh, it's been discovered. It's just not
mutations?
officially out there yet.
Oh,
I've seen
really?
them. Yeah.
Really? Like the
Yeah,
white
there's a
ones? The
translucent.
white stuff?
Well, the white one, it's definitely something. I don't know what it is, but they can't prove it out lately. So I'm gonna let them figure it out before I open my mouth about what the white
What do
ones
you
are.
feel about those pastels? Because I look at some of those pastels and I've seen them
Hmm.
in different collections, and I feel that it's something, Bobby. I don't know what, but I feel that they're clearly different, right? Like they have a they're I'm not a
I
guard person again,
guess
just from an observation standpoint, they clearly look different.
they do. But I think it's again, we're looking at base color, right?
You don't think
Because
it's a genetic thing?
most people, oh, I think it's totally genetic, but I think it may not be a trait like we're thinking of, like lily white, where
Like
it's
a
a
crested
codominant
gecko
or
type
a.
deal, yeah.
And it could be. Again, it could be. I don't know. This is
Isn't that
just my
exciting though?
speculation.
All those
Yeah, it was
unknowns,
so
like all the
exciting,
times you try it, I don't know. Like I love that. Like I
I do
wish I
too.
went the guard route instead of crested geckos, and I hate to say that, but it wasn't my choice,
Not too
unfortunately,
late.
and it is what it is. But like with all the unknowns, like I feel like I could be so much more of an asset in the gargoyle world, and it's that's why I
It's
focus
the
on the
Wild West right
cutest.
now.
But
It's
yeah,
the Wild West. And it's the same
yeah,
thing with the Chihuahuas, man.
yeah,
Don't get me started on how
it
I
is.
think
It
that those
absolutely
can,
is. It absolutely
it's not
is.
just white collar, you
Nah,
know.
not at all. Not at all.
Um, but I think
Might as well.
kind of going back to the pastels, if I'm just going to speculate and guess, okay, again, nothing scientific here.
I don't like swearing on
Um,
the podcast. Hold on. But this
yeah, go ahead.
fucking animal, dude. This
Isn't it
fucking
insane?
animal is like, I don't even know what to say. Like, and I'm not, no offense. Like, how the fuck did Bobby get her? Like, what the fuck? God,
Right.
jeez. I try to make all day. This is what I want to make. I mean, this is what I focus on. I appreciate collars, no doubt, but I'm all about the color. Like, give me
Mhm.
colors, man. And I've hopefully we'll start producing some things along these lines. But this is like you just got an animal that somehow flew under the whole hobby's radar
It
for
was
how
on
old is
Morph
this thing?
Market for a
4 months
while
old? How
too.
old is this thing?
It's
Is it a male, female? What do you got?
that's my
It's a
female,
girl.
and she is 2 years old.
Dude, how did this how who had this and didn't like build a brand on this thing?
Well, I got it from Dragonborn. Again, Ryan is just working magic everywhere.
Dragonhorn, dude. I gotta get him on the podcast. You
Yeah,
wouldn't be offended, would you?
no, please have Ryan on if you'll get on. Ryan, he was on my podcast once, and he was a great guest.
You did have
Um,
him?
yeah. So we didn't talk Chewies, but yeah, I didn't really know he was into Chewies as much, and I was buying again I bought two amazing gargoyle splotches from him, probably my two best splotches right now, and I had some extra cash, and I was looking at getting into Chewies, and I saw this female, and it wasn't even his most expensive female, and there's some sisters still on Wharf Market right now if you want to go pick one
Really?
up. Oh yeah, they're not cheap, but they're awesome.
See,
I
we'll get into that
and
too, but
yeah, but it's also so subjective, of what people are paying for.
symmetry of the hips,
It's
it's like
just awesome, and
even
the little bits of body white, even though it's
she's
color,
so
and
symmetrical, dude. She's so symmetrical.
she's
It's
orange, she's
beautiful.
green, she's red, she's white, I mean, she is everything I
And
was looking for.
as
Like
old
if
as
I
she
just have
is,
her as
she's
a
gonna
pet and
hold
never
you.
breed her, I'm happy. you know?
That's an animal you do that with. That's a very rare. I guess I've got 30 shit, 36 of them, 17 eggs incubating. I mean, this is not something you come across every day. Like there's different
Mm-mm.
kinds of reds, but like I'm an orange fanatic. Like blue and orange, I'm a Mets fan, obviously. Blue and
Yeah.
orange are my thing, and this color is just like you're
Well,
very
and
lucky,
you know
very
this,
privileged to
the
have that animal,
lineage
Bobby.
game with uh with Chewies, from what I can tell, and just talking to the people in my short time, it's on another level. I mean, I got like a breeding dog lineage line from both people I bought from with these animals. So they have a pedigree, and she's no different. She's got a lot of ET geckos in her. And then I went
Killer
and picked up
lines.
a male from Chihuahua Chamber with orange. I
You
sent
never
this
beat my
video to
man.
Michael, and he couldn't have been nicer. I didn't know he would even respond that quickly.
Cool,
And I
dude.
said, hey, you know, I hear you got some of the best. I love your animals. I'm thinking, so the price tags are going to be out of my range for what I want. But I threw him the video and I'm like, hey, you got a male that's going to go well with this eventually. I'm just looking to get one pair. And I really do. I just want to have the one pair. Um,
All you need if they
but
look like that. Because
right. And oh my God, it's phenomenal. And
they
so
don't
he picked
produce
out a
quite.
great male. I don't know. Do I have a video up with the male? I'm pretty sure I
I
do.
was just looking. I don't know that you
I'm
do. I
pretty sure
found
it'd be
these.
newer.
Do you have a
I sold
hybrid too, dude?
I
I thought you
sold
I
it so I
saw.
could get the male.
Oh
Oh,
shit.
wait, go down. That male right
Oh,
there.
oh, okay. So this is from
No,
Mike.
it's really bad light. Yeah,
Oh, it
that's
is right
from
there.
Mike. Yeah. So, not as fiery red, but that's younger. He's only a year.
It's the lack of dark pigment there that will allow it. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it's more like an observation thing too. But you have potential like that. Yes, that's a good. I wouldn't have that. You're not going to find another animal. I mean, maybe you do and have people,
Yeah.
but to find a double of your female,
It's hard. It's
yeah,
going to be hard. And I'm very fortunate that I had this opportunity and, kind of dumb luck. It
glad you
wasn't anything I
realized that.
did. It's
Glad
dumb
you
luck.
realized that. He's equally as beautiful. To find
Hmm.
males with collars like that is hard in itself. But he's a knockout animal all day.
Yeah. And again, pedigree going back crazy amounts. And I was very impressed with both transactions and just both. The other cool thing is, everybody said that Chewies are, once I get one, I'm going to fall in love with them. And then they were right. I talking to Sarah at Rainy Day Geckos. I'm surprised how much she was right. She is so great. And one of those things where, if I ever do get another one, it'll probably be from her. But it's these things are so cool, and they're not super jumpy. They're so intelligent. I've noticed that they're intentional with everything they do. They're intentional more
Very
so
strategic.
than any guard I've ever had. Um, Unless you see a guard go after food, man, they strike
You
like
won't
a,
see a Chihuahua fly themselves like guards or cresteds do. They don't
mm-mm.
just fling themselves into midair. Chihuahuas are very. I mean, dude, everybody knows how I feel about it, man. Like they're
Yeah. Do you
you
have
have
any?
them now. You see, dude, they're very
Yeah,
special animals.
they're very special, and so that's why I have them up on my top rack, and it's the only rack I can put a big UVB strip.
What do you have them in? What are you keeping them in? That big fancy cage you built?
I will eventually when I pair them. Yes. So I've got
Wait,
that.
Bobby, wait, don't rush it. Wait.
Yes. No, I'm gonna wait till they're at least really 3.5, 4 years old
That's what I
because
did. That's what I did.
I don't need to breed them.
Yeah,
I think it'd be fun to breed them,
the
but at the
anticipation
end of the
alone is
day,
worth it.
yeah, I mean, I just want to enjoy them right now. I've got my Gargs going, so I've got my kind of breeding fixed. And I just enjoy going over there at night. The female's way more outgoing, but I've had her a little bit longer, so he's still kind of settling in. And she'll come up and she'll walk right into my hand. I can't get either of them to tongue feed.
Really?
Not yet.
That's probably how they were raised.
Maybe
Probably not used to it.
I because I tried to tongue feed roaches. I had a whole bunch of roaches, and they're just not into them. So they're forcing me to go buy crickets. Damn it, I hate crickets,
Have
but
you tried
they're
superworms?
worth it.
Have you tried superworms?
Not with them yet. I've tried it with my Gargs, and I have
I
some
love them.
Gargs that love them.
Love them. Probably the
Good.
number one go to food for my whole 36 whatever I have Chihuahuas is super worms. Not that it's a
Cool.
great staple, but they love them. And what's
Yeah.
awesome that I've realized is that super worms have pinchers, right? Dude,
Hmm.
Chihuahuas will never bite a super worm from the ass end. Excuse my language. They always bite them head first. If you held a cat
Interesting.
on tongs in front of their face, 100 times out of 100, they go for the head first. Every time.
Mm.
They're
Interesting.
smart, man. They're very smart. They know where the
Yeah, they
pinchers are.
are.
They clip them from, they know what's going on. They're awesome.
Go for the neck.
Awesome. Awesome. There's so
No,
many things I could do. I could literally have a 24-hour podcast talking about Chihuahuas, dude. Like,
I think also, and I would love your opinion on this. I'm a big believer that gargoyles are near the top of their food chain where they are. I don't think there's a lot of leechies. The
I
more
think
I
they
kind of do the
occupy that
research,
space. They dominate the
yeah,
space in which they live in. Yeah.
it's a lot more like lower trees and shrubs and things like that
From
versus the
people I've
tall trees
spoke
where the
to that've
leachies
been
are.
to New Caledonia, I talked to Thomas Marriott. He
Yeah,
works for the UK magazine. He travels, going all these places, and he's a real biologist. Like I spoke to him, and we had plenty of conversations about where certain animals absolutely occupy in the rainforests and jungle, and gargoyles stay in one spot. They all have their different ranges,
niches.
if you will,
Yeah,
and where they stay. And yes, gargoyles are typically facing face down the middle ish area of trees and branches, which makes sense. They're predators. They're waiting for things to come up to them. And, baby crested geckos hatching and running right up a tree. You're not going to get
and that's what I was
your
gonna say
natural
is,
meal.
I think honestly, the amount that we feed diet versus insects or versus I mean, I'm not going to go and breed geckos to feed them off, but I don't think there's I think it would be natural, if anybody does it because
Very natural.
it's so natural. I mean, when I have any issues, like if I've had a few babies, hatch out and just, be stillborns or, there's you know, not many, but you know what I'm saying? Like things happen. And as soon as I put
You'll know
uh,
right then and there, Bobby. You
right
know
as a
how
talk,
natural it is.
bam! Oh my God, it's just like it's
Won't hit a
insane.
cricket like that. They won't hit a superworm like that. They will hit
Mm-mm.
nothing with the veracity and intent that they hit another gecko with, man.
And they've never seen one before because I've hatched out geckos,
Dude,
raised them, and then they're doing that.
their teeth
It's.
design. Look at their teeth, their claws, their
Hmm.
everything about them is predator, dude. Like they
Right.
are gecko eaters.
Yep. And so that's one thing I was surprised with. There's so many, we raise mice, we raise gnolls, we raise all these things as feeders to complete an animals to make them thrive with their diet. And we keep having all these discussions about, well, what kind of protein are we going to put in the smoothie? Okay. I'm surprised we don't have an outlet for feeder animals for this,
It's a
I'm not saying
taboo
I want to
thing,
do it. I know it is. It's
I
interesting.
do feed geckos. I keep it it's no secret. I tell
Yeah.
people my intention all the time is to keep my animals as close to nature as possible. And that means for me to provide them with the most natural opportunities possible. And when
Right.
that includes other geckos for my gargoyles. I don't feed geckos to anything else I have other than
Hmm.
my leachianus and my gargoyles eat other geckos. Now, the geckos that I use, obviously I'm not feeding them my crested geckos and things that I've, other than the accidents like you've said, but
Right.
I at my local pet store you can buy feeder geckos, which are typically
Ooh.
house geckos, but
Yeah.
and green and knolls, which I don't really feed because I feel that they just it's irrelevant, but I just feel like even though the house geckos, well, actually, I did see on iNaturalist that there is some invasive species of house geckos and morning geckos that are absolutely been documented in New Caledonia.
Yeah.
Morning geckos are a little pricey, but the house geckos are very similar and get to a comparable size, and they're like $4.99 a piece. So I haven't bred them yet. I would like to have a colony, but that's a project in itself. I'm not going to keep
It
something
is.
anything less than the best I can because it's a feeder. I mean, my roaches and bugs live in fully bioactive enclosures. Like I'm not gonna, just because it's food, I'm not gonna treat it like it's on death row, man.
Well, right. Well, and you don't want to because that's where you
No,
breed
not at
disease,
all,
and
not
that's
at
where you
all.
breed,
Yeah,
they're
absolutely,
not good
absolutely,
feeders then. But
valid. Yeah, absolutely.
it's like crappy fish, if you have a bunch of goldfish in a crap pond and then you try to feed it off
Sure,
to your Oscar can get sick.
sure, sure.
So yeah, now I'm
Yeah,
with you. It's just it's one of those things that I keep thinking about, the more I'm in this because I'm really, like you said, we're trying to do best by our animals, and you see their tendencies, and you see how the adults don't care about. Crickets very often. My females, when they're laying eggs, they just know they'll eat anything. Um, but it's
that's what I'll
very
feed the
interesting
geckos
just
too.
watching them.
Yeah, that's
What's
what I
that?
usually when I can tell that my girl, because I only have one female gargoyle, when she's ovulating, when I can tell when she's starting to blow up, that's when
Hmm.
I'll feed, my once a month. Sometimes I give it to her twice a month, depending on how many times I go to the pet shop. But that's usually when I'll
Right.
give her the morning gecko or the house gecko rather, is when I can tell she's ovulating when she's making those eggs. It's just because it is. It's natural. It's a surplus of calcium. It's a full
It's a whole
whole
prey
animal
animal.
protein source. And again, it's we got to stop being so ignorant and taking these human emotions out of the game here. This is life, and this is what keeps
Hmm.
them alive. If you know you said no human could eat meat again or eat dairy again because you like cows. I mean, some human beings would be seriously impacted by that. I mean, not to sound funny, but if you took beef out of my life, you know what that would do to me? Like, I love cows, but I need beef, man. It's
Everybody can make their own choices because you're all,
yeah,
but
it's
I'm maybe it's stereotypical, but I'm in the camp that we have big brains because we ate meat. So I mean, I've had too many health issues that are fixed by I've lost so much weight. I've lost about 30 pounds now
good,
because I'm
awesome.
now
God
eating
bless you,
mostly
brother.
carnivore.
God bless
Like,
you, brother.
it's crazy how, when I'm
But
eating
I understand. I
processed
get where
food, yeah.
people are coming from, and I commend them for having such huge hearts. Like I do, I do,
Oh,
I
I
do.
completely, no, we're
But,
all animal lovers, and I get that.
but these
And they should be
geckos,
humanely raised and, things like that, just
sure.
even like the beef. I love, the idea of rotational crop grass-fed beef. I think that's the best way to do it. Um,
Hell yeah, man. Grass fed Angus, brother. Listen, I'll eat a whole cow, man.
yeah. You ever read Joe Salinger's book on how he farms?
No.
Yeah, I'm not saying he does everything right, but go read that book. You would love it. He talks about how he raises dirt, but then he raises all like the chickens, and they follow he
Sure.
mimics nature on his farm in a micro
Sure.
setting,
Sure.
and he moves the animals in
Love it
ways where they
already.
all benefit from each other. It's awesome. It was a great book.
Sure. I love it
So
already,
anyway,
man. I mean, that's if you again can take emotion out of it and look at things factually,
hmm
you'd just be ignorant to bash someone for feeding. And I hate to even say it, but
hmm
crested geckos. It's. I mean,
their
there's
diet.
scientific studies. I mean, there is, and I don't know the exact number. So please, if you feel compelled, write
Hmm.
the exact numbers in the comments, guys. But I've read studies from field reports of gut contents of animals. The
Hmm.
primary gut content of these animals was of gargoyles in particular was other geckos. Like
Yeah,
it was. I mean,
Bovia and things like that are all in New
sure.
Caledonia,
The
and
the
yeah.
actual percentage. Oh my god. The percentage of a spider just dropped off the ceiling on me.
Oh,
The,
geez.
the percentage of fruit was dwarfed by the other
Hmm.
proteins.
Right.
So it's that's
Yeah.
nature. If you want to keep these animals, it's your responsibility to give it the best life possible. And
Hmm.
if you classify and define the best way possible as natural as possible, which
Hmm.
you'd be foolish not to, right? These animals, I say this all the time, but these animals evolved over millions of years to live in a specific forest, doing a specific thing, and adapted and evolved to a specific environment, eating specific food sources. You're not doing the animal any justice by putting him in a tank and then changing all that on him. Like, people are like, oh, well, they never knew what it is to eat a live animal, so why feed it a live animal? You can't miss something you never had. Dude, Do you think these
Well,
things
why
pointy,
they're
jagged, backward
successful?
facing teeth are just going to flatten out and they're going to grow a mouthful of molars because you want to feed them lettuce?
Yeah. Well, so here's my thing with that. I agree with you. Why they're successful is in the pet industry. Name the top three reptiles in the pet industry, right? Name why we as a species have been successful all over. We're all adaptable.
Yes.
The animals that are not adaptable are the ones that
Yeah.
are the expert level, hard to
Yes,
keep,
for
the
sure,
ones
for
that
sure.
don't thrive. And that doesn't mean we should abuse them and
Absolutely.
push them,
Absolutely.
but it's something to recognize that these animals are hardy and adaptable. And that's why they're able to reproduce in suboptimal,
It's reason they're as
care.
popular as they are,
Um,
you know?
exactly. And so, I do also think I've been listening to some other podcasts where they talk a lot about domestication. I actually ended up picking up a book that Philip Leitz recommended about domestication. And what's interesting is I see it even with, especially with crested geckos, not so much with gargs yet or chewies, but the amount that we've influenced them, it's not going to erase, their entire evolutionary history, but we
Bump in it.
intentionally or unintentionally are selecting for certain traits, selecting for
Absolutely.
certain genetics that are changing this species to adapt to
Absolutely.
these new environments. So that's also kind of another side of the
For
conversation that I
sure, for
love.
sure. It's visible. It's visible. And I'm not saying,
Oh,
guys,
very
like
much so.
these guys are adaptive. Like feed them your diets. If you don't like bugs, I'm not saying that they won't live. Do what you
Hmm.
feel is best for your animal. However, we are, Bobby, we are.
Yeah.
And if you break it down to a simple thing here, like say for example, like reproduction. Now we put this in the hobby, right? In captivity, we have put this standard on breeding age and weight. Make no mistake about it, an animal in the world that is old enough to reproduce is reproducing, right? Like an animal at 9 months old in the wild. I've had geckos, crested geckos in particular, 9, 10 months dropping duds.
Hmm.
In theory, in the wild, those would not be infertile eggs that I was collecting at 9, 10 months old. That gecko would be a parent
Go
at
back
nine,
to
ten
my
months old.
crazy girl I just picked up. She just laid duds and she's just over a year old.
See?
If I wanted to, technically, I'm not going to. If I wanted to technically throw her to a male this year and get eggs and see, not that
Absolutely.
one, but the stripe, right? So yeah, that one right there, right next door. So if I wanted to go and throw her, she'd have fertile eggs in
Absolutely.
3 months. And
Absolutely.
there's downside to that, just like you shouldn't. There's health risks if you're 13 years old and have a
Sure.
baby,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Yes. And
So I
I'm
think
not
that's where the
condoning it.
age thing
Yes.
comes in. No, but I think, for males, what health risk is there? I'm not saying to do it, but like, okay, size. Do you think most males in the wild, crested gecko, gargoyle gecko, are 55, 60, 70 grams
No.
on
Not
average?
really. No. No. No.
You know what I
No.
mean? Because A, they need to be mobile, they need to be, but I think from what I've seen, most males, when I'm raising them, do not grow nearly as fast as the females. I can almost sex a gecko by 10 grams without looking at their vent by how much food they pound. When they are just ravenous eaters and they're growing rapidly, I'm like, that's going to be a female.
Sure.
It's not always that way, right? But
Sure.
9 times out of 10, my females just grow like this gecko's clutch mate is half her size.
Interesting.
Talking to the breeder, right? At least was when I purchased her, right? And they weren't unhealthy. It's just males and females grow at different rates. And I've seen males that kind of just my boy Mahe, right? The red on red blotch that I have. When I bred him, I was like, man, I really want to get him up to 45, 50 grams. He wouldn't break 44 grams to save his life, right? And I bred him, and he's like, you want to talk about a male that's overzealous? He is just crazy overzealous. And like to the point where I kind of pulled him a little bit from my girls, from Eve, right? He had breeding marks all over. He bred her like crazy. I've got eggs again that I'm waiting on. Um, but breeding size, he's one of my smallest males, and maybe I should choose not to breed. That's him right there. He's gorgeous, super healthy, great structure, right? Um, am I breeding for size?
Cool looking
Some people
animal.
are breeding for size and wouldn't want that. Some people want to have a super large male that's 70
Well, that was
grams.
exactly my point. By us selectively breeding. Nature does the same thing, right? Through,
Yeah.
survival of the fittest. Nature is
Look at those horns,
naturally
dude.
selecting the strongest animals to
Hmm.
reproduce by whether it's predation or things dying for whatever other reason. Only the strong and fit reproduce in the wild. We are throwing a monkey wrench in in nature's gearbox by doing it the way we're doing it, by setting this standard and only breeding animals of this size, only breeding animals of this. We are interfering with the evolution of these animals. And evolution, I don't believe that evolution ever stops, right? Evolution
Mm-mm.
doesn't stop. You know, we are
We're
something these
domesticating
animals
them.
are evolving to, right? Like they're
Yeah.
evolving, and I guess that's ultimately the definition of domestication, I guess, right? Like you've
But
evolved to,
yeah, you're shaping them to live in an artificial or a
yeah,
human world, and
become
I
human
don't know.
dependent on humans.
Yeah, and there's some traits that are very tracked throughout different species that all have been domesticated. And the other question is, a lot of people are in this like saying that we need to think about, well, yes, I get keeping them like they're wild, and we've had this discussion. But I think that we have to realize these are not going back to the wild. Okay. 99.9% of every gecko here in the United States is not going back to New Caledonia. We
Yeah,
are not
100%
repopulating.
not going back.
This is not this is not us being, zoologists and we're conservationists and we're keeping the gecko species alive. And there are species that we do keep in herpetoculture that, maybe a zoo is doing that or certain keepers are working with certain things and that's their goal. But the chance that they're actually going back, we have to admit they're pets. They're for us, and they're for. I mean, again, we want to give them the best, but let's call a spade a spade. They're in the hobby, right? And so it's okay if you want to breed large ones like Great Danes. Great. There's pros and cons to that. If you want to breed them, you think that this size is okay to breed. That's great. They're all choices with consequences and
Sure,
pros and cons.
absolutely. That's perfect.
But
That's a
again,
perfect way to put it.
they're not, we don't have to
Yeah.
keep them
And we
exactly,
it all too. Trust me, dude. Like you
physically like
said, we're
that.
not going back to the wild. These
Yeah.
are captive animals now. So depending on who you are and what your preferences are and what your circumstances consider, contain, I believe that's one of the beautiful things about these things is that you can
Yeah.
literally domesticate these things however you choose, right? Like
Hmm.
you don't have to keep them in naturalistic setups the way that I do. I don't keep every animal in naturalistic
Well,
setup.
and
I
I'm
have a
not saying
lot
about the
for
setups. And
bins.
I here's the thing is I'm not even talking about the setups as far as like this situation goes. I'm just talking about their physical traits and their
Sure,
appearances, you
sure,
know. But no matter what
sure.
their physical traits and appearances are,
Maybe that
there's still
affects the way they
influence.
evolve, though, Bobby. Maybe
Was it?
keeping an animal, maybe if these animals
Hmm.
evolved to live in a forest, right, in New Caledonia, maybe the way they look is because of the environment in which they're in.
Well,
Maybe over the
100% it
next
is.
200 years, they will actually physically change the way they look because of how they are now kept. Like if
Yeah.
evolution doesn't stop, then they will not continue to stop
Do you
evolving.
think these high-colored animals wouldn't be picked off right away?
That's one of those things I don't get, right? Because
You know?
have you seen Wild? Have you seen? I can't bring any to my head, and I
I've
know
seen
some people
F1.
that have
I've
F
owned
ones.
F1s.
Are they
I've
not? Are they as
seen.
bright or no? Because that's what I don't get. Like, how aren't you clipped in the wild? Like how did a bright
Mhm.
red animal like this get knocked off by a bird in New Caledonia? Would you
And
see
again,
something this color in the wild or no? Are they were they not that vibrant?
I don't believe you're going to see it as often, maybe very seldomly, but again, I don't know. This would be a better question for someone
He's a
who's been to
sharp
New
animal,
Cal
man. He
or
has like a boxier
thank you.
head. I like his head.
Yeah, he's and again great from a great breeder and just did a great job and I'm lucky to own it. I've been so lucky in this, dude. I cannot tell you how fortunate I've been to find the finds I've had and yes, I search and I talk to people, but
Those
that's
horns,
half the
too.
fun.
Like shark
It's half
fins
the
on his
fun.
head.
Yeah.
He's cool.
So he's really cool and he's a chill male, but I'm looking for actually I want to circle back to your question about the pastels. Okay, because I've been told geckos like him, if you see him fired down, he turns purple. And Eve was the same way. When she fired down, she was all shades of deep purple when she was in shed, all the way to bright red as he is, right? And so I've also got another gecko that's a blotch that's very similar with that I got from Tiki's named Tiki, so I was really original there, but it fit my theme still.
Man, I got one
I
too named Tiki.
Yeah, it's a common name, but I'm like, yeah, I'll burn it, because she's cool. But she's a red base, red stripe, and she's purple too. And I almost think that that's one, the purples, the pinks. I feel like it's a brightening thing with their base color, and it's almost a reduction of black, right? It doesn't mean they don't have melanin, but if you look at him fired down, he doesn't have that crisp black.
Sure,
Tiki doesn't have the crisp black. Eve didn't have the crisp black.
sure.
And so whether I've heard that it's a co-dominant trait where you get hets and you get supers and that when they look like this, they're the supers, that may be true.
Well, that's
It
what I was
may
wondering.
be
Is it like a
100% true.
hypo or something? When I seen the pastels, that's what makes me curious. Is it a
Maybe.
form as a hypo, some type of melanistic something? Because something's clearly like it's similar, but there's something slightly off, and it's
Yeah, it might be. But or it might be, like again, we're talking about spectrums and color. And
yeah,
are we did
another
people
great perspective.
breed a white animal, a white based animal to a high red animal and then they get a pink?
Like
I
this
don't
one
know.
looks different too. Like, see, what is this? Is going into
That
shed,
one,
or is this just
yeah, that
different?
one's a little bit into shed. That was one that so I pair up so one cool thing
Look
I'll
at that
kind of touch
stripe
on
down
real
its back.
quick.
That's a perfect stripe down that thing's
Yeah,
back.
isn't it nice? That
Holy,
one, you can see it says kind of a purplish base.
yeah, that's why I
That
clicked
was
on
from
that
my
too.
buddy Oliver at H2O Geckos. He lives really close and we collab a lot. Gotten some great animals from him. Actually, there's an animal up top that I kept because I wouldn't sell it. Um, and it's just, yeah, if you go up a little farther, a little bit more, he's newer. That's him there. Should I keep him? Right? If you go down one from the male, Chewy, one more down.
Who the hell's this shoe?
Or that one right there.
This one in the middle?
Sorry. No, the one to the right.
This one.
Yeah. So that one there has a cool like undertone of a red base, and his stripes are insane. But I work with Oliver. He's been around way longer in this hobby. All the OGs know him, but he's kind of like under the radar. And you know, we'll do Palm Streets together, and he'll sometimes just drop off geckos and go, "Hey, Bobby, take some good pictures. See if you can move them, and I'll give you a small little cut." And we have fun with it. And
You're good at
it,
it. Why not?
one
You're good at talking.
well, well, we talked earlier about, I've had people kind of say things about me is they think that I'm flipping and that I'm buying these animals from them and flipping them. And I'm like, well, I could do that if I wanted to, but I don't even have to. If I don't
You're
sell it, I just hand
flipping
it
a
back to them,
friend. I mean, it's
you
like
know?
sharing a post. When someone that I know put something, if you put something up for sale, 9 times out of 10, I'm sharing it. Like, not making
Right.
shit, not flipping nothing, but I want you to
But
win.
I
Like,
want, yeah, I'm trying to help him because he doesn't like to do the social media as much.
of
We
course,
all have our strengths,
common
and
thing, to
clearly I
be
like
honest.
this. Yeah, it is very common. That's the other thing too. At least to me, my thing is why I'm more visible about it is because I clearly state on all of my posts who it's from. And I clearly state that I did not produce this animal, that I'm helping out a friend, um, which I think would kind of negate the allegations, but I guess it caused them. So if I would have just said I
Sucks, man. I'm
produced it and
sorry for you,
lied,
Bobby. I feel so sorry
oh,
for you,
don't
man.
feel bad for me at all. That
I
doesn't
apologize
really
on these
bother me.
assholes' fucking behalf, man, because that's just not right, man. Like,
Yeah.
maybe are they just jealous? Like, do you have an animal? Do you want some help selling it? Like
I'd be
post
jealous if I
them.
didn't
Like,
own
help
this
me sell
animal.
them. Like,
You know what's funny
flip
is so, and
them.
this is the cool thing about it is when someone buys one of my nicer geckos, right? I look at that as advertisement, right? If I whether I give them a deal or not or whatever it is, when people post the animals that I've produced, and I hope this happens more and more as the year goes on, like people are going to message, "Where did you get that? Where did you get that animal?" And that's why when people go and say, "Hey, where did you get this animal?" I'll tell you exactly. Go support this person because they're doing great stuff over here, right? And so there was a gecko that a newer kind of breeder posted, and I'm like, dude, we have such similar taste. Where did you get that thing? And he goes, you won't believe it. What you get from our buddy, from Oliver. And I message Oliver. I'm like, Oliver, come on, we've worked together. What are you doing selling that, not offering it to me first, just, tongue in cheek? He goes, dude, I got another one. Don't worry, I'll hook you up. And so he sends it over to my house, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you did. you know, that was Frank. That's my crazy import, and I was like, I just color lined it on my phone
Cool.
to pink.
Very cool.
Um, yeah, I have fun with this stuff. There you can see the head color on the
That's
male.
boy.
But
That,
yeah, that's Tiki.
that,
That's the other one that fires down, kind of purplely red. The contrast with her, she really gets pale. So the one with the head color there, that's he's going to be a crazy male, and he's eating like crazy right now.
got a nice
Um,
sharp stripe down
I
his back
call him
too.
shark bait. So he's my new male shark bait,
So,
and
so this line won't close, right? Is there any markers that would
now
tell you a line is not going to close on an animal's back? I know you said before, kind of like the pixelated
that
look,
dark black,
then
that
that's
dark
not going to
black.
show. But if it was the kind of pixelated around the edges, it has the potential to close up.
So maybe click over to the next one. Like he's got signs that his genetics will allow the next generation to close, in my opinion, because him and his sisters have little dots of red in that black line. But it's trying to peek through, but it's not there yet. And I just think it's
This
again
one,
stacking. Yeah, that one too. That's the sister. That's my favorite.
I've seen it on her. I've seen those couple of
Her
dots.
name, I think I'm going to name her Aloha if she stays female. But you can see in her black, if we kind of zoom in, little red dots. And again,
You have
she's
to
only 10
bear with me
grams.
because I don't know
No, you're
how to
fine.
zoom in. I don't know. Like I'm clicked on a link. I don't know how to.
Yeah, I
I
don't know.
don't
You did
think
it
I
earlier. You were
can.
zooming.
How the hell? Well, I made this bigger.
Yeah, if you make it bigger, it zooms.
That's the whole. That's
No,
my
no. Wait,
whole
wait,
screen.
wait. Make it smaller. Yeah, there you go. Now it's zooming in. That went crazy.
Okay, well, where
That
the hell
changed
did you go?
everything.
I don't know what the hell I did.
I'm off to the side. Don't worry about me. They don't need to see my ugly mug.
But I can see what you're talking
You can
about,
see
like
the little
around
red
here
dots
and
there,
then
right? And you
here.
can see the
Yeah, yeah.
black fading on her. She's probably got the best chance of having stuff sort of fill in. But the ones that I see really fill in from a very young age, I'm talking like 3 to 5 grams, you can start to see the it kind of go together, and that black really disappear. I think that's one aspect of when black disappears and goes away, it gives a color a chance to fill in.
I wonder
So
if that's
that's
some type
also.
of like natural genetic blocker. Like this animal, dude. What the hell,
Mhm.
Bobby? Oh
Dude, I almost
man.
traded her away
I would
too.
never even want to breed that. I would just like build a badass like centerpiece for my living room or something with her, man. Like
Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
she's a chunk, dude. At a year old, she's 50. I just weighed her again,
Yeah.
54 grams.
She got it going on all over, man. The face
Yeah,
streaks and stripes. She's awesome. That's a gnarly pattern, dude. Because they're like meteorites almost. You see like the like a dark spot, and it kind of fades out behind every one of them. I mean, that's
and
freaking
she's
cool,
one
man.
where her and Mahe and even Eve back in the day, like they look better to me fired down. A lot of blotches I like
Is
fired
this
down better
fire
for the
down? Is
contrast. That's
this
fired
fire
down for
down?
sure. When she is fired up, she's a solid red gecko.
Okay.
And that's the difference is I think a lot of people are chasing after a solid gecko. They talk about the solid red gecko, but
Yeah.
they're talking about pattern solid red, where it's not going to fire up and fire down because pattern. It, I'm learning things and theories where it might be influenced by it, but for the most part, with what we're working with right now, the pattern stays no matter whether it's fired up and fired down. That's the difference between crested geckos and gargoyles that I love.
Okay.
Um, but with this. She just, the pattern's still there, but it's harder to see because her base color just overtakes
This place
everything.
is cool. It's like you get two different geckos in one. Like any
Yeah,
time of the day, you can have two different animals.
not just two. When they half fire, again, it's like there's multiple different stages of it.
Never seen anything
Uh,
like this before. I've never seen an agricoli with color.
yeah,
Is that
I
yours?
actually they were for a hot second. I don't actually own them anymore.
Very
I
interesting.
Very cool. I loved them. I got them at Tinley, and speaking of family, I wanted pick them up. They weren't cheap. And I was going to do a whole project with just those two, but they were young.
Cool. That's a
It would
project.
take me another year and a half to just get them to breeding. They were small and they were young and they were great. And knew someone who wanted them, and I really wanted to get my family a golf cart. So I took the opportunity. I'm like, I'll work on my Gargs and let this one go, and I'll
I
probably
respect
regret
it.
it. But
Sometimes you get a species
I,
hobby and you just know that you're not that passionate, right? Like people go through that, man, and it's natural,
yeah,
guys. Like sometimes and you're probably better off if it's not in your soul. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. If you can't feel it, like this is something you would not let go. I mean, if all hell froze over tomorrow, I'd be looking for a way to box my chihuahuas up. Like they're not
yeah,
going anywhere. Like you're getting your I'm putting you in deli cups if I have to, and
right.
we're going to fight zombies. Like you're not going anywhere.
Well, and when I had this opportunity, you
Sure,
know how it's like when you have something for just a short time, you're not as attached.
you
But when you
had
have
enough.
something for a long time,
Absolutely,
it's a little bit
absolutely.
harder. I knew that I'd get attached if I had it longer, but you know, I took the opportunity to help my family, and that's what this is about. I'm doing
Sure.
this for this hobby is for me to have fun, but at the end of the day, anything that I kind of benefit from, the
This
perk
is.
is to the family.
I understand
Yeah, that's the
100%.
same
This is a
gecko,
good
really
example of
dark.
the back speckling we were talking about.
Yep,
This one, that picture right
in the
there,
face.
yeah, shows how that back line is kind of pixelated. Like that'll clearly fill in
Yes, and her
as the
dad,
potential fill.
Magma, is known because he has the closed
That's
back,
the
and
one you were talking about. Okay.
I've seen pictures of Magma as a baby, and it's clear as day that back's going to close. So that's, really strong in the back dorsal, um, weak on the sides, and I'm trying to
It
have the
is
complete gecko with both.
the hell it
She's
is.
she she's going to have both. Yeah, that's my koala girl.
I love that. I love how those stripes are trying to get to each other. Like, I
Correct.
love this. I mean, I respect the crisp lines, no doubt. I'm not taking anything away from them. But
Mhm.
personally, this here, you know, these spots, I love that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And there's some breeders that are really diving into that and not worrying about there's a lateral stripe, but just kind of more like my other girl there, my Magnus baby. But I like the stripes more. I like it when it's bleeding like this. A near perfect gecko to me.
Do
If
you
she
think this
had
will close up?
had color, oh yeah, hmm I think so. If not, it'll have like specks of white.
How long have you had her now? How old is she?
She is
Oh, this is coral?
yeah, it's coral. Yeah, just fired
Oh,
down.
all right. So I saw
That's what I
newer
love. It's
pictures
like,
right there.
yeah. So you've seen,
Two different
but
animals. Oh, see, that's that
absolutely.
pastel-y look I was talking about. What's
That's the
this?
same one as the one you saw earlier. That's Tiki.
Okay, okay.
But you see
See,
how
something
purple
is
she is
there,
there.
Bobby. There's something with this. I don't know, and I'm not trying to
Yeah.
claim to know, but there is
Nope.
something going on with that look. If
hmm
that's supposed to be fired down and that's supposed to be black and it's not, I would say hypo all day. Like it's
That's mid
something
fired.
something's happening there. Because that's
Yeah.
basically
That
the color when I see a pastel animal and they call them pastel, like that's the color they are. I
right.
guess
But now
fired
here,
up
do
they're
me a
that
favor.
color.
Scroll down a little bit. Let's see if I have
Hold on, let me see.
oh yeah, yeah. I've got an older picture of her completely fired up, and you
Look at
won't see
that.
any
God
pattern.
damn, dude.
That's Hawaii, yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, you're nuts. Something's totally different with her. That's a yellow animal, bro. That's like
Right.
that is awesome. That's a
hmm
unique. That's a super unique. Oh man. Okay, you
Yeah.
see, you got some freaking fire over there.
I'm having fun. And then this male here over to the right, the one with the almost full back as a baby, he's got eyebrows too. Um,
Did you make this?
no, that's an Oliver baby. It's group 14. I I'm holding on to him for the crazy blotch that I picked up from Dragonborn. I'm gonna try to I think they're gonna be a really good pair because they kind
That's
of have
unique
different
too,
strengths.
man. What do you even call that? Because it's like there
Kind of a
would be a
skeleton.
stripe, but it's got blotches that clearly go to where the
Yep.
like it
So
clearly is interrupted there.
So a lot of people would call this a skeleton, which is kind of that stripe down the back with kind of fingers. It kind of looks like a
Yeah,
rib
yeah.
cage. But he's and this is the question of terms, right? Is he a skeleton or is he a super blotch that's just really strong in the dorsal? Or is he a combination of a stripe and a blotch? I don't know. I just like him.
That's something to work with,
He's
yo.
a
That'd
pretty
be
gecko.
fun. That's something
Yeah.
exciting right there. That's very exciting.
I'm
And
gonna
this
breed
is a
them back
male.
to the
This
super.
is a
That's the
male.
male.
That's
Yep, and
cool.
I'm gonna breed them back to the when they're of age
Oh,
to
that's
a super
very cool.
blotch.
What do you think
Um,
about the damn, what are they called? I know someone called it like someone was calling it the bacon line, but then Boris has them and they're he calls them what
Bacon's
is
so confusing because every other it's like Johnson is the
Boris
last name.
Boris over at BB's has the same
Yeah,
thing in his collection, but he calls them something else. They're
I think
damn
they're
man, what
bicolors.
oh, but they have circles on them. There's literally,
Oh, the
literally the word
clowns,
clowns. Yes, clowns.
clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boris makes animals that literally have ovals and circles on their side. It's
hmm
like that's
I think
something unique too.
it is. I don't claim to know what it is, but I know that I think it's going to be very hard to reproduce those with color, is my thing. I've seen some European lines where, because Europe kind of favored orange where we favored red. And I've seen some breeding females that were imported that have just that circle, but have like a full back, and that's really a cool look.
Interesting.
So those were some babies I produced last year.
I had two questions for you. I
Go
really don't
ahead.
want to keep you all night, dude, and I could literally talk to you all night.
We could talk all day. I talk
What's up
forever.
with the new logo? When and
Oh
how
yeah.
and where? What was the inspiration for this?
So
I love it.
thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I make my own logos, and
I love that your name
I
doesn't have exotic. No offense to anybody out there with the
yeah.
exotics. Like, please, please do not mistake what I'm saying. I'm not bashing anybody's name, but it's very refreshing to see a reptile in general company's name that doesn't have exotics in it. I love it.
You want to know why I'm called Gecko Cove? I
I'm
don't think
sure
I've
you've told me,
ever.
but I think it'd be great for
I
you to
don't know if I've told
reiterate.
this story. So I'm Gecko Cove because I wanted to obviously breed geckos, and I didn't want to pigeonhole myself with gargoyles because I didn't know if I was going to branch out. But my grandfather, who I lived 4 doors down from where he lived, and my grandma still lives there. He had this sign, right? Because there's this little lake behind his house, right? And it said Kovacs Cove. My last name is Kovac, right? And so that always just kind of, I love the alliteration, stuck with me. And I'm playing with different names. And my original logo had a palm tree that had, kind of a look of a K, and so I put it right at the end of Gecko Cove, and if you read it the right way and you knew what to look for, it said Gecko Kovac, right? And so that's where I came up with the name
I love the whole
Gecko
spin, the
Cove.
whole little thing you do with even the names and the cove thing. I'm a super nautical human being. The
Well, thank you.
water is in my soul. The ocean is in my soul, and it's very cool. I love it. I love it. I love when people do that. No offense, you're not the only one. Other people do cool
No,
little things like that, and I think it's very
I just
unique,
wanted a
super
theme.
awesome, passionate. Like it's yes,
I kind of wanted it to, this is my escape. This hobby is my vacation every day. And so,
love
it's
it.
not necessarily about a Polynesian theme or anything else like that. It's my own vacation. And whether it's a island kind of thing here in the Midwest with Lake Michigan, or if it's a tropical vacation, I want my feel to be like you're relaxed and you're on vacation, and this is
Love it.
enjoyable. This isn't stress.
And there's so
So
much you can do
that's
with
kind
it.
of my theme.
You can
Yeah, yeah.
always keep growing with it, with the name, with everything you do, with like your displays, the whole islandy theme. Like you can just go forever with it, man.
Yeah, no, and I get to wear Hawaiian shirts, why not?
There you go.
But the logo, my logo, I probably should stop tinkering with it. But again, I like change. And when I first made my first
You
few
like the
logos, I
one
went,
behind you more. I like the circle that says Gecko Cove in it. Like I
yeah, and
like
that's the official one.
that one
So
over
that,
this one.
yeah, and that's the official one. It's the same thing, just kind of merging my old one and this like rendition.
Love it.
Um, And what I was doing, I was actually playing around, teaching my son how to play with artwork on the computer. And I came,
Incredible.
there's this one thing that I use Canva. It's not a secret.
I just
I play
downloaded it.
around with Canva,
You like
and
it? I just downloaded it. We'll talk about
yeah,
that later.
I
But
mean,
I've never
it's
used. I
got
haven't opened
its
it yet.
limitations, but overall it works if you're creative. And I took a few different templates, and I just didn't want the I wanted something simple and fun, but my son just loved this little gecko. And I played around with different colors. It was green the first time I saw it. And I wanted to make it red for gargoyles. And I tried to find a way to make it striped, but it didn't work. So I'm like, oh, cool, it's blotched. And you just go with it. And what I loved about this logo is my kids loved it.
There you go.
And that's why we changed officially.
There you go. Do
So
you have alternates? Do you have like secondary logos that you use for like
so
advertisements? Oh, there you go.
stickers here. This is my old logo,
Which is
which
cool in
was
itself, dude. I love that too.
yeah.
Very, you put those on the your lay boxes, right? Like when you
Yep,
had those lay boxes with that put in them.
correct.
I thought that was I still want them for myself.
I've got this little one that has the gecko hanging off of it,
Very
you
cool.
know, with Seychelles there.
Very
Um,
cool. That's
yeah,
cool. I think it's
some cool
important.
stuff.
I think it's
But
people underestimate people get tired of seeing the same thing too. It's cool to have little
right.
visual spins and twists.
Well, and
Very
there's so
cool.
many cool little things that I've seen people do. Like I've got this one here, right, from Dragonborn. This is like an actual like stamped
Wax melting.
into, and that's how their animals information comes. I'm like, that's awesome, you know.
Very
So
cool.
just trying to find different ways to set
Very
yourself
cool.
apart, and yeah.
Very cool. You know what would be
So,
cool is get like when you send your animals out and you have all their information, put them on like fake cruise tickets or something, like a
oh, that would be
fake
really
cruise
cool,
ticket,
actually.
just
I like that.
stamp all their information. That'd be cool. When you sell an
Yeah.
animal, so how do you when you sell an animal to a new
Mhm.
customer, what information comes with the animal and how do you present that information to your customers?
So, I'm always evolving with this, but I would say, I put most of my sales are on Morph Market, and so I do some sales on Palm Street, but I keep a website. I don't know how many people visit my website because I don't sell on the website, but I have all my lineage, I have all my pictures, I have all my holdbacks. If you want to see anything about my geckos or where they came from, and my customers, I tell them that's where it is, right? And so they can go pick up photos if they want more that's not on there, I usually have baby photos from the moment they hatch, which because I overtake photos, right?
Okay.
But then I just typically provide right on I got deli cups here and the lid right here. I I have a bunch of painter's tape because I always have projects in the house, and I just cut little pieces of painter's tape, blue painter tape, and then I write it with a marker abbreviation for the gecko. So let's say it was Proslin in Hawaii. It's a PRHI. I use the first two initials for both, the number for that year, and then the year that it hatched. And then I put the hatch date down below. That's typically the information I put with the animal. Now, I've seen some people who do like a birth certificate and things
Yeah,
like that.
that's what I
That's
was
really
going to
cool.
ask. Delicious
Um,
Frogs does, believe it or not. They gave me the idea. I think it's brilliant. Like when they sell
yeah,
an animal, they come with an actual birth certificate. I got a couple. They're taped on tanks, but they come with like a real birth certificate. I think it's
yep.
cool. Again, I
I
can
see
see you
myself doing
doing
that in the
something like
future.
that. Yeah, I see. I fit you well.
Absolutely.
Fit your what you guys do well.
I like the
Elves too.
passport
They do
idea.
something like that. That's what I'm saying. Like that'd be cool, right? Like a little.
Yeah.
That'd be very cool, man. Very cool little spin. Another question that just popped into my head
hmm
is I noticed you had some groups. How do you determine what the parent are of a group and how do you label a group? Like I know most people, Paul, and everybody will say like, it's from group whatever.
Yes.
What do you do?
So this is
Same
the fun part about admitting when you eat your words. Okay. If you go back to other podcasts of mine and interviews of mine, I said I want to do one-on-one. And I've been doing one-on-one for, you know, up until 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
I
so the
never
group
did
thing is
groups.
new for you. Okay,
Brand
okay, okay,
spanking new.
okay.
And the only reason I'm doing groups is I had the geckos kind of in a vision, and so I was going to rotate the males. What I found was that some males are great at that. My boy Proslin, who I've been using as my main breeder for the last 2 years, he's cool. You put him in with a new female every few weeks. He does his thing. He doesn't pester her. He's like the perfect amount of Randy. You get what I'm saying? Okay. Some of my new breeding males,
Little
they
buck.
got a libido, okay, and they pestered my girls to the point where I saw one where they locked jaws, right, and for the first time I had a breeding injury, and I kind of saw what some of the more experienced breeders were talking about, where we need to kind of spread out the aggression, and they weren't to the point where I had to bring them to the hospital or there was anything that was permanent, but Seychelles, in the group up top, that male, Nemo, he's great, but he is really he wants it and he wants it his way and he wants it now. So it was just one of those things where I put more hides in the enclosure. I listened to people who knew what they were doing, and I kind of spread out the aggression. The trio seemed to be working. I haven't had nearly as much aggression in the last 3 weeks, but it's only 3 weeks.
Cool.
Um,
Live and you
Now,
learn, dude.
to
When
back to
you
your
evolve.
question, yeah, because I still want to know who the parents are. I track all of my girls' cycles. I have a spreadsheet because, again, I only have six females breeding. Okay, so it's not hard, but I track every girl's last lay, and then I say, okay, from the last lay, how many days did it take for her next lay? And then I estimate what's going to be the next one. And when it gets close to it, like even 15 days away from it, you'd be surprised because at the beginning of the season, it takes longer for them to develop the eggs. And then as the season kicks off right around this time, I'll go from being like 55 to 70 days in between lays, all the way down to 42 days, right? And that's the middle of the season, peak summer, popping out the most eggs as possible. Um, and then it winds down again, right, as we get to the end of the season. So these are all things that just tracking over the last 3 years, I've been really able to kind of see, okay, who's going to lay and in what order, right? So I know my next girl that's supposed to lay right now, Exuma just laid. My next girl that's going to lay is going to be Bermuda, and then it's going to be who's it going to be? It's going to be Maui. So
Beauty of having a smaller collection, man. This is what
it
I admire.
is.
Is you guys could do things like this. Like it's
And so what I do is before bed every night when the lights go out, I typically can tell who's going to be in the lay box. And before, actually, and here's another thing I didn't do for a while. I bought those lay boxes. I didn't like how certain lids that I got from the lay boxes, and he told me this beforehand because it was a new thing, putting in the logos. Some of them stuck. And so I felt like if I looked in there, I was disrupting the female, right? So I went back to just mounding up the substrate so I could peek around the corner with my flashlight, see who's digging, and that's the one I know that's going to breed, or who's going to lay the eggs that night. Um, and then I also weigh them afterwards. If I saw them digging and then they're 5 grams less, well then I know it was her.
are you using a
So
spreadsheet or are you just writing it down in a notebook?
Excel spreadsheet.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep, everything's tracked in there. I have all my geckos' weights tracked in there over the last 2 years. I put
Shout out to
notes in
Wally
there.
Kern. My boy Wally
Yep.
at Supreme Geckos, spreadsheet master.
Yes,
Wally!
he is.
Uh,
Oh man, he's one of the best people in the hobby.
the
Seriously.
most genuine, pure people you ever meet. I've made a lot of friends through this, and just geckos in general. Wally's one person that just on a random Tuesday will just shoot me a message and just be like, "Hey, bud, just checking on you, seeing how you're doing, man." And not for nothing, but it's inspirational. It makes me scroll through my messages and just see someone like, "Hey, I haven't heard from this person or seen a post in a while." And just make sure they're all right. And I'll wind up shooting people a message like, "What's going on?" It's he has a very contagious positivity to him. It's
He does, and he's so kind. But what's
him
fun
and
is,
Nelson too.
I
Nelson, oh, you know
was,
Nelson.
oh, I
Nelson
know
on YouTube
Nelson.
too.
Yeah, we
I
vended
can't
together.
speak highly enough about Nelson. Like
Hmm.
again, no offense to you or to anyone, but he's one of the most underrated, underappreciated, like I almost want to tear up, like greatest humans you will ever be privileged enough to meet. Like
Hmm.
Nelson is like I can't even say enough about the man. He's a godsend to this hobby, and I
Well, I
hope
love how he
people
shares everything with his kids. He's such a good
do.
dad,
We
you
do the
know?
same thing, man. Very similar. Like
Yeah.
Nelson is a paragon of this hobby. Like people should want to be like Nelson as a human, understanding, never passing judgment, always willing to listen, always willing to help. I mean, very much like yourself, dude. You guys have a lot in common. Probably,
Oh,
it's
I'll
he's
prove you wrong eventually. No, I appreciate the kind words, man. I really do.
you
Because
never hear a bad
I
word about
agree.
anyone
They're
out of your
awesome.
guys' mouths. Those are things that
Yeah.
I
It's not
just
worth it. It's not worth it. We're having
think
fun
people
here.
just,
You
God,
know?
man, life is so short, man. Life
It
is so
is.
short. Like, why would you want to contaminate the one part of your life that brings you joy, man? At least
Hmm.
like, spare us. Don't do it for us. I mean,
Right.
jeez. But again, yeah. Shout out to the spreadsheet master.
Yeah, the
I would
spreadsheet method.
say
Yeah.
groups, if you're observant enough,
Hmm.
right? Because I've ran groups before. Don't let me lie to you. With
Yeah.
crested geckos, I've ran groups, and it's personally not been hard to me. But I'm very observant, probably
Hmm.
more so than I should be. But it's not hard for me to tell. I to this day I have still not had two females lay eggs the same night. Like
Hmm.
at least in the group. If one
Right.
female's in there and she's gravid and she drops, like I know how I can tell who laid eggs because one's still
Hmm.
pregnant. Like it's
Yes.
clear as day. You
Right.
know?
Well, the other cool thing is, so this group that you've got going on right now, they're
Yeah.
sisters,
Okay.
right? So Bimini and Exuma are half sisters, so they're not full sisters. But that was actually something I picked up from another, really awesome breeder in the industry. They were saying they always pick up girls, or they always, a pair of girls when they do trios, and then
Sure.
they're the same genetics, you know.
Sure.
So they
It's
don't
interesting.
have. It's a cool kind of concept
I'd love
actually,
to
and like
see
even holdbacks,
what you
holdback
produce. I'd love to
to
see it.
sisters,
I'd love
you
to see
know.
it. Yeah.
But then I always wonder, like, okay, they're sisters, they're not identical twins. Um,
Sure.
does one produce slightly better than the other one,
Sure.
right?
That's
And so,
exciting, bro. That's got to be exciting.
yeah, I mean, Bimini's produced my best stripes ever, and Exuma's produced my best blotches so far with different males. But yeah, it'll be interesting. So I'm really excited for
Very
this.
cool. I got a question, and I've been wanting to ask it since the beginning, but there's no better time than now. If Give me your elevator pitch on Gecko Cove. Who is Gecko Cove? What does Gecko Cove stand for? What do you aim to do for the hobby? What? Give me an elevator pitch. Who's Gecko Cove?
Currently, I am a you know, guy in the hobby, just a regular guy in the hobby who's extroverted, who picked a species that was a little underappreciated and brought it a little bit more into the spotlight, and just wanted to share this passion with as many people because my talent is that I'm extroverted and I'm not afraid of getting on camera and I'm not afraid of putting myself out there. Um, but at the end of the day, my goal with my breeding projects are to create the most jaw-dropping geckos that I can, to really bring these animals to the forefront, because the flashy stuff is the stuff that does that. And I enjoy it. I like pretty things. I surround myself with Maine Coon cats and blue Merle dogs,
Sure.
and
Sure.
I'll put my wife in there. She's a very pretty thing. you know so I just want to be able to look in my bins and just go, wow, I can't believe I own that. And honestly, I feel like I've reached that to a degree already. What I want to do moving forward is, I started the podcast for many reasons. One big reason was because I wasn't producing right when I first started the podcast, and I wanted something to do to be a part of the hobby and learn, because if you
Great
go
way to.
back and watch my original episodes, and what I really was doing for a long time was interviewing people that I wanted to talk to and learn from, and I did. I was great at asking questions, in my opinion, because I was thirsty for knowledge, and I didn't genuinely know. And if you watch my more recent episodes to critique myself, is I was starting to get to the point where I knew the answer before I asked the question because I had already been kind of doing this for a little bit and I didn't know everything. I still don't know everything, but the general audience who watches this stuff wants the basics, wants the stuff that they're just getting into. And I want to have, if I'm going to spend the time continuing making a podcast, I want to create value and not just content. And I know that sounds cliche, but I want to create something that I enjoy. And I always said, if I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to do it. Right. I want to figure out what kind of questions can I ask to be genuine, to go and push the envelope, to have these kind of conversations. I love that you're asking questions and that we're bantering back and forth about, do we know about the genetics, right? Do we know what a pastel truly is? And these are things that I'd love to revisit with some of the people I've talked to before now that I have new questions. But
Yeah.
I don't want it to be, and I think you saw this with the Gecko pod too. They got to the point where they were just interviewing people and it became a showcase of, hey, who are you? Tell me about your program, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not what I want to do. Um, so if I do, I want to do it in a shorter format, not a 2, 3 hour format. Because I don't know, I just really want to figure things out more, right? I don't know if this makes sense. I'm kind of rambling at this point.
No, well, it does. It does. It does. And it kind of segues into, the second part of that question is like, where do you want to take Gecko Cove, the podcast, the hobby breeding Gecko Cove? Where do you give me a 5 year plan? Where do you want to
Yeah,
take? And also, I guess you could add this in there. But what is your idea of the perfect gecko? Like, what is your dream? I know you said you've made some things that are on the cusp of your perfect animal, but describe
yeah,
to us what your idea of the perfect animal. Mic drop, done, lights out, game's over. I made it. And again, I guess I should have asked you
yeah.
two questions in one.
No, no, you're good. I mean, as far as the breeding goals, I think that I'll start with that one. Um, Again, my goal is I don't know what's possible yet. And so whether that's a fully covered animal with pattern, my focus is on pattern. So if we're going to go back to the theory of there's all these different traits,
Yes.
right? And we can isolate those traits and really tease out a lot of cool stuff. The trait I want to go for is high colored pattern. And that's both with blotches and stripes, and do those separately. That's my breeding goal there, while also keeping up the head structure and all that other stuff that's important, right? Because the cheat code, it's not really a secret, is inbreeding. If you want to take an animal and stack its genetics, breed it to its sibling. We wonder why certain places have just surpassed us like crazy. Part of it is they spent a ton of money. Part of it is, I'm guessing, again, I have no evidence or proof, but I'm pretty sure that, they're siblings, that are breeding to each other but that's how a lot of things have come out too in the reptile hobby. So I'm not fully judging it. The reason why we have recessive morphs and we've proven out recessive morphs, the only way to do that is breeding siblings or offspring back to their parent.
Okay.
Um, but again, I don't want to do that for my goal here, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Um, your other question was, again, remind me, basically, where do I see
The
the
podcast. Where
podcast?
do you want? Where would you like to take the podcast? I know you briefly. I mean, I could, you know,
Yeah,
keep
I mean,
my own
I kind
answer
of
out of what
touched
you
on this,
said
but
before.
where do I
Yeah.
really want to take it? I want to have fun with it again. So one of the things that I sort of started, and it was kind of bad timing to launch when we did, but John from Goldenrod Gex, really awesome guy. Uh, I was a fan of his. He was a fan of mine. We didn't know each other, and we saw each other at Tinley and kind of had like a geek out moment in line on the second day at Tinley. I said hi to him first, and he turns around, he's like, holy shit, you're talking to me? And I'm like, yeah, why? He goes, I love your stuff. And I'm like, dude, I love your stuff. Like, I couldn't create little, Instagram reels like you do. Like, that's just not my thing. And he's a master of it. And So we kind of geeked out on each other and became good friends. And so we chat all the time. And we're like, you know what? It'd be fun because we don't keep the same animals, right? He doesn't keep many gargs. I don't keep crested geckos. We're both at, similar stages in our kind of breeding journey. And so one thing we're looking at doing is doing a short, kind of 30-minute banter session about what's going on in our hobbies and what's going on in the hobby in general.
I think that'd be
And
great, dude. I'm excited. Like, I think that'd be phenomenal.
yeah, so I think it'd be fun, and we'll do it till we're bored, and then maybe we'll come up with something else, or I'll just do something else. But for right now, I'm excited to work with John and partner with him, and we're trying to decide whether we should do it live or if we should pre-record it.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
see.
a hard one. I mean, you know more about this podcasting thing than I do, but I think that's a hard call
Barely.
too, depending on how big your audience is. It's almost
Yeah.
better to pre-record, build the hype, and then drop the episode. And I have
Yeah.
read plenty of statistics and all types of stuff on viewing and blah 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 blah. But if your following is big enough and you advertise that you're going to have a live, like you would just a short clip of something you've already recorded, you can get just as big of a following and a turnout as well. So it's you're again much better at marketing and brand and all that stuff than I'll ever be.
You don't give
Something you
yourself
gotta
enough
think
credit. You're
about.
one of my favorite
I'm
shows
just
to watch in general, and
winging
you've
it,
been
bro. I'm
more
just having
consistent than I
conversations.
am. You're way more consistent. Yeah, I guarantee a lot of my followers have jumped ship off mine and onto yours. So, and that's a great thing. You do a great job with this. And so, my thing is that I've never been one. I reached my one goal. I wanted to get to monetization uh, when I first started, right? So
On
I
YouTube?
monetized, yeah, on YouTube.
That's cool. I don't know
Um,
how you do any of that stuff. That's cool though.
yeah, I think I've made a total of $100 in 2 years, and so it's nothing. And, but it was just fun to say I did it because I watched so much
Yeah.
YouTube beforehand and
Oh
everything.
yeah.
Um, but I've stayed around, like, I think I'm at 2,500 followers on the channel, right? And I'm
Awesome.
proud of it and it's fun. But at the end of the day, it's not, for me, none of this is ever about becoming, YouTube famous or getting all the followers or getting the biggest shows. I like the quality of, like, just doing something, going back to, like, if I'm having fun, it's going to come off as genuine. If I'm not having fun, I don't want to go and say, and I know that all the
I
experts
get
say,
it.
you got to post no matter what every week,
I get it,
follow the
dude.
recipe and you're going to be successful. Well, then I got another job, and I've got enough things that I do that kind of stuff with in my life. I'd rather put that energy, and I did for the last few months, into the geckos, and that was more important to me, and that's why I kind of took a step back from the podcast. I also noticed I was just like, I'm sitting here chatting with you tonight, and this is so much fun. I love this, right? Because I haven't done it in a while. Um, but also it takes away time from my kids. I can't put them to bed tonight. And if I was doing that once a week, plus one of the nights I got to go and edit, and it takes how much time, and I'm working my full-time job. People don't realize how much it takes away from your time and your family and things
Now.
like that. So, yeah. So, I'll probably have times in my life where I ramp it back up. And with, me retiring, becoming a stay-at-home dad, maybe I'll have more time, but
What
maybe I won't.
software do you use, by the way? What software are you using when you record?
Mhm.
Do you have? I mean, obviously you clearly
Riverside.
have. Oh, you did use Riverside too?
I did use Riverside.
Okay.
Yeah. So use Riverside. I know that was it not DuckDuckGo? What's the other one?
StreamYard?
Yeah, StreamYard. That's what it is. It has the duck logo. I I kind of like that one. I
Really,
like
I've
that
never
if you're gonna
used
do.
it. I do hear good things about it.
I like the if you're gonna go live. Straight to YouTube. I've seen it work
Jason's always
really
telling me that
well.
you could go to all of them at the same time or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
so
some.
something like that. There's some pros and cons. I noticed I actually paid for Riverside for a long time, and the free version you have to have a watermark, right?
I have the free one.
I got to the
Just
point where I
had
was
it
looking at it and go, I
easy.
don't use any of these features,
That's what I'm
so I just
saying.
use the free.
Had it
So
easy to.
yeah, I mean,
That's
it
cool.
all worked out. So I do that, and then I edit just on my Mac. I have a MacBook, and I just use iMovie. I know that there's a lot of other better programs out there. I
Do what brings out your best talents, right? Like you can have software that
Or
does
just
it.
use what you
You
have.
figure out how to use it. Like you got to be comfortable, I guess, right? Like I don't know how to make thumbnails and stuff, but you have a talent. Like you've
Well, thank you. It's just
managed
Canva.
to do some very impressive things, man. Like it's
I've always
inspirational.
been
Dude.
somewhat
Very cool.
creative, right? I'm not math. Don't ask me to do math, right? Like keeping a budget. My wife is the person to ask, but everybody's got their talents, and like my siblings are actually better artists than I am, right? But I have my own ways of being creative, and geckos are one of the ways I feel like I'm artistically
Well,
creative,
sure, absolutely,
and the
dude.
vision of it. But
Joe's
it's one of those things where you play around with it, and I don't think you need to go and spend a ton of money on gear. If you wanted to do something like this, you want to start your own podcast. There's so many people I talk to. They're like,
oh
"What camera do I have to go buy? What do I go? I am literally using my same iPhone to record this right now.
hell yeah.
Um, I'm using my MacBook with the free software. You know, I've got cheap lights right here that cost me, I think it was $80 for the set of them. Like, you don't have to go and break the bank to get started. I've got a DSLR that cost me $250 from Costco that I use for all of my photos in a light box that I ripped the top off of because I didn't like the cheap LED light, right? And that was a cheap one. So it's funny, like everybody's like, well, how do you take the photos you take, right? I'm like, I'm not editing them. I just take them with a flash and put good light
You are
shining
using a
into the
flash
box.
too.
Oh, sometimes you can clearly tell if you go back to my photos, you can clearly tell which ones are flash and which ones are not, if they're in the light box, or light box. But I also use like I have this giant window that's in my gecko room because it's a slanted ceiling, right? Which actually kills me because of that, I have to limit how many tanks I put in there. But like that's just natural lighting from the light coming in from the window. Is those the
Like
videos
this, like
there?
is this
Like
is a
that's just natural light straight from the window. Um, and so what's funny is I'll have like perfect lighting, and then a cloud will come,
is this the
and I'm like,
flash?
shit,
Well,
huh?
that's a video, so it wouldn't be a flash.
Yeah,
So I
no, no,
went
no,
and
no.
spent like $1,200, Bobby, on a camera. I went and bought a Sony Alpha something.
Oh,
I have not
nice.
taken a picture of a gecko yet. I haven't taken a picture of a gecko
Okay.
yet. I panic when I like. How do I get the damn pictures from my camera to my computer or to my phone? Like I panic and I'm like, forget it. I'm not
Yeah.
doing it. I'll just take it on my phone and they're on my phone. But I've learned how now, kind of. I mean, I love photography in general. Like, I have thousands of pictures of just like in the woods and trees and my dogs and stuff. But I would love to. Are
Well,
you
one thing
good
I
at
will.
photography? Are you good? Like, would you
You tell
say
me.
to be a
I take
good?
lots
Well,
of
I think
photos. I don't
yes.
know
I
if
think
I'm
you take
good.
good
So
photos.
this
But
one up here. So go up a little bit. That's a photo.
it's right here.
So, so
No,
that's a
that's
video. But hold on. Go up one
you
more
know.
level
Do you know
to
your
the
way
left.
around the camera? I guess is what I'm looking to
The
say.
basics. The
So
basics. I
I'd
just
love to
YouTube
put
it.
together a little online like group podcast seminar type thing, if you will, about photography. Brian Butler, I think I can get in. I just recorded with him, and he's like a camera guru.
Get what's his name?
Right here.
Robbie
This got to
from
be a
Robbie's
full box.
Reptiles. That's a photo. Yeah, 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 yeah. So
Okay,
that's the photo box. That's an
that's a
older photo
flash.
too.
That's a good.
Um,
I can tell now. I can.
that's
Oh, see, look at that. That's that blood burgundy red we
yeah,
were talking about. Who the hell is
that
that
is.
animal?
Yep. So that's no flash there. The one to the
Oh,
left, I
no
believe, had
flash.
a flash. Yeah. That one had no flash.
This is a
So you
flash.
see it? That's a flash. Yeah. It usually like when they
I can see.
glow,
I can see. I can see.
when they glow like that, it's a flash. And they
Okay.
do look like that in person, you know, but
Because
because
you're
sometimes
not
without the flash, you're
changing the
just
way they
not
look.
seeing it.
You're not editing.
No.
You're just using lighting, the true animal in the healthiest proportions and combinations possible to represent the animal the best. You're not doing
While it's
anything to
indoors.
alter
You
your
want
animal.
the best photos, you want the best videos. Back
Natural
to that
sun,
one with Mahe, that video, right? That one there. Look at that. Okay.
outdoor.
Look
Well, you
at
can
it's
have the
outdoor and
shadows of like natural. I don't know how to explain it, but you're absolutely right.
You're not going to beat the sun. And I've had people like kind of critique me and say, "Well,
That's a
yeah, your
cool one.
photos are nice, but they never look as good because you don't take them outside." You know, oh, what gecko is that? That's not even mine.
Well, it's not yours. Where the hell did this come from?
I don't know.
What the hell just happened? I clicked on a picture. Was it the right
Yeah,
here?
you're on. No, those aren't mine. You went to Centaur Gargs.
What the frig did I do?
But here, you want an easy way? Go to my website. You go to geckocove.com.
Bobby, you're asking me to do things I don't know how to
I'm
do.
sorry.
Hold on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Here, right here. Okay. Just geckocove.com or .org.
Yep.
Where you at? .com?
.com. Yep.
That's
I
cool,
got it. Before someone
right?
snagged it. Yeah. Nice and easy.
Well, I guess I got to put a www in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like old
Really
school,
so used to my
apparently.
phone where I don't have to. But
Right.
right here.
So I make my own website.
You can't see
I
it now,
manage
can
it.
you? You can't see this.
No, I can't see it if you
All
share
right,
it.
it's coming up right now. What the hell? Right here. Boom. Oh, see, I'm a
There you
tech
go.
guy now.
Now
I
you
don't
are.
see
See,
you though.
so that
You're
that's
gone.
my website. And so I've got pictures. If you hit the males or the females over on the left, whatever you want to look at, you can see the photos there. And if you
Oh,
click
we
on their
should have did
names,
this from
then
the beginning, Bobby.
there you go. Sorry.
This is awesome.
So those are my breeding males.
Is this up to date? Do you stay up to date on your
Yep.
with your website? You're
Very pretty up to date. Like if you go, yeah, you go to my females. Those are all my breeding females right now.
damn. Now I see what everybody's talking about Hawaii, dude. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
makes
Oh,
sense.
here's the fun part. So click on Hawaii's name. This will blow you away. Okay. So no lineage, but if you click through her carousel, if you go backwards, you can see her baby photos. Try to get all the photos I can. So that's
Oh
the day I
no.
got her. You can see her kind of developed. So she was a little bit more orange when she was younger, and she kind of
Yeah, I was gonna
faded,
say she almost
which is
lost
the
her
opposite.
red. Is she? Yeah,
hmm Which is why I
that's
say
an
she's more of a pale
interesting
orange.
observation too.
Yeah.
Very. Have you ever had any offspring from her do the same?
Oh, from what I've seen, I haven't held back any offspring.
That's
I've sold
interesting.
them all. So, but yeah, I saw her and picked her up from Birds and Bees Pet Shop. Um, yeah, it was one of those things where I'm like, man, a six stripe! I can't believe I got a six stripe. Like I was like over the moon, and I was like, she's gonna be, and she is one of my best. But like, with that first one that you get where you're like, man, I'll never own this.
Clearly, one of
And
your most unique. I mean,
yes,
in a very red market, let's say, she's the standout.
and then my holdbacks, I'm just so excited
Oh,
for
that's really where I'm going. This thing blows me away, dude. Like I this Christmas,
Christmas.
I
Yeah.
don't even know what to say. Like I know I'm
So,
a nobody. Like I know nothing about these gargs, but
but look
like,
how different
dude,
she looks fired up.
yes, yes, yes. Like
You
that's
know.
like the perfect. I would want that just for a pet. Screw breeding it. I probably wouldn't even breed it at all. Like these little
Yeah.
clusters, these little like
Yeah.
things here are just incredible. They're
She
not
is
like the
just such
typical.
a advanced blotch, in my opinion. I mean, her
That's
parents and her grandparents, if you scroll down,
yeah. I want to see what's she come
I
out
have
of.
the
Is this
lineage there.
removal? Oh God, what the hell is this?
Right.
Tiger burst?
Right. Yeah.
What
So
the
it was
hell?
a combination between Dragonborn Exotics had a female called, or no, no, yeah, female Amaterasu, and he bred it to Vapona, which is Gargoyle Queen's best male,
Wow.
who's the father to one of my blotches, so I can't breed them together. And then you've got Dragon Blood here from produced by South Texas Gex, I think.
No
So
doubt, Carlos. No doubt, cool animal.
yeah,
Bobby, this is probably the most unique gecko I've ever seen. Gargoyle.
yeah, it's pretty awesome, isn't she?
That is insane.
So.
That's a full grown adult animal, right? This is not changing. This is
Uh-huh.
how this
No,
animal
that's not
looks.
changing. That's a bicolor look.
This
And I
thing's
like the
got
bicolor look.
freaking three different colors of red, orange, yellow. This thing is insane.
Yep.
Oh wow.
I
Who
told you
owns this
he
animal? Dragonborn still owns them?
Dragonborn. Yep,
Oh my
absolutely.
god. Do they produce things that look like this?
I haven't seen a baby that looks like that, but that doesn't mean that, he's not holding them
What?
back and hoarding them.
How old
I
is
don't know.
this animal? This is like I'm like
I
literally
think it's like 3 or 4.
mesmerized right now,
I don't know exactly.
dude.
So yeah, she's gorgeous.
I wonder how that thing developed. Do you
Well,
think
you
that
want
this
to you
fits
want to
us
see
will
that
turn into
gecko's
that?
sibling? No, no, this one's red. You want to see that gecko's sibling?
Which ones?
Go the
Christmas
tiger
list?
burst.
Yeah, where is it?
So go back to holdbacks. Okay, and then the male I got from him is a half sibling. So if you go down a little bit farther, it's at the
Kokomo's
bottom.
cool too.
Yeah, that's my holdback from this past year. That's the one I produced. Shipwreck is the half sibling.
Two totally different animals.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
so
he's
the
more of like
thing,
a banded stripe, but again,
so that's
super
what I noticed with
covered.
these blotches. You have those
So,
kind of banded blotches, and then there's like see
yep,
like how this kind of has like bands, but that would be still considered a blotch, right?
correct.
And then you
Yes.
look at Christmas, and Christmas is like clearly like stardust, like
Yep.
little
Yeah, there's
meteors,
different looks, and
which is very similar
I
kind of.
almost think that the ones that kind of like look like it's tiger stripes, like they spread the color,
Yeah,
where then you've got the ones that kind of concentrate the big heavy blotches, and I see the best production when you mix those two for
it's got
blotches.
the double color thing going on too. So
So
this
that's the
is
sibling. That's also the Amaterasu mixed with Vapona
interesting.
sister.
Oh, I've been
So
missing out, dude. I'm missing out huge.
so then if you go back to my holdbacks, the one you pointed out earlier, my male. Um, So scrolling down just a little bit, that one there, Kahuna. Oh, you got
Kokomo.
Kokomo. Kokomo is another one I really like. Kokomo is one that I wanted because Paige at Cosmic has this one male brouhaha. If you scroll down, you can
I've
see the
heard
dad.
his name.
Oh, he's just amazing. So brouhaha, and then she did a great combination with Cattywampus. She produced both those animals, and this is totally her line. These are going to stay more orange. But Kahuna there, he was the only one I held back. I produced consistently geckos that looked like him, and yeah, just super thick, bold stripes, and that comes from a stripe mixed with a blotch.
Really? That's my pairing, by the way. Like I said, I have one male and one female. My female
Hmm.
has like zero lineage whatsoever. My male comes from Nelson from
Nice,
Tiki David's Dracula lines.
nice.
Dracula, whatever
Yep.
the hell that is. I know
So
nothing
I don't
about it,
know.
but
I
I have
might
a
have
blotch
some
and a
really
stripe.
young photos of this one because I mean, I literally had it
Will
from
this grow up to be
obviously.
a bicolor, Bobby, or is these going to ultimately
It
change to the same
might
color?
my what I've noticed actually even from these photos, I just looking at it yesterday, it's turning more red because you look at the parents and they're definitely red geckos. But I think again, when it's this kind of color at 15 grams, my guess from the knowledge I have is that it's going to turn red, but it's going to be that bright, like neon red. It's not going to be the super dark red. Where its sister, um,
Here's the proof, guys. Blotch, stripe. Blotch and a stripe makes a stripe. That's
there's
like,
some people who think stripe is dominant. There's some people who don't.
have you had any, have you, out of that pair, gotten blotches out of your stripe and blotch pairing? Have you gotten blotches?
Yes. Yes, I've gotten blotches. I've also gotten blotches out of two stripes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so there's
This
polymorphism there.
animal, Bobby, is a showstopper, bro.
Yeah, she is. She
Like,
is.
there's
That's
something
why I named
different
her
here.
Christmas.
She's like glowing, dude. This is something, dude.
Hmm.
It's like she's
Yeah.
plugged in or something.
Again, I'm speechless. I'm honored. Like I really,
Do you think it'll stay like this, or do you think it'll all
it'll
blob
get better.
together? Like
It
it'll.
might kind of blob together.
I like
It
it
might, but
separated, man. Damn.
but I
Don't
mean,
stop.
at her age, I don't think it's going to go fully, one solid color. Um, but I think her offspring have a chance of doing that,
Beautiful.
if
She's a
paired
pretty
correctly.
girl, man. Pretty girl.
The
Have
other
you
thing that I'll
noticed?
point out that, you can kind of see in that photo, but more when she's an adult, and you can kind of see it in mom too. I'm finding a marker for really high-end animals is that right above their upper lip, there's a line that sort of develops the color. I don't know if, yeah, you kind of right
I've
there.
seen it on other ones that you're talking about. It's almost like a
Yeah. It's
point
actually
comes
more
out of here
distinct on my imports. So if you go back to one page, it's really clear as day in the
on
holdbacks.
holdbacks
So go down to yeah, so
like
hula there.
this, like that.
Yep. that
No.
that there is an indicator that I'm looking for lately.
Think
There's
this
other ones,
animal,
but
how old is this one? Is this a full, is this an adult?
no, 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 no,
No,
no, no.
what,
That's
this
not
is
even
going
a
to go
year
that
old.
dark color. You think this will turn that burgundy blood color or?
She already is.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But like
Yeah,
that other one we looked at that was like this to me is going to be a bright neon,
that's going to be
real
the bright
stripe. This will be
neon.
that blood
He's
color.
going to be dark. Lava's turning a little bit red, but she's still that like orange
Yeah,
lava
maybe
color.
you might get a, I don't know, to say a bicolor out of that because you see this orange in
Might.
here, but you would know more than me.
Oh, definitely. I mean, but that's the cool
It'd
thing. You
be
don't know
cool.
how exactly they're going to develop, and even in the same, kind of bloodline,
Look at all
everyone's a little
this
bit
space
individual.
speckling though. Like I bet there's some type of like genetic, blocker within their DNA that doesn't allow color in certain spots, and you're slowly like weakening that
Healing her away.
defense, if
Yep.
you will, that's allowing color to seep its way in.
Yep. And Kraken's got some on his head too. It's just a little more
I've
faint.
seen a couple of your others
Um,
do too.
Aloha's the best. Like by far, she's my best gecko. Like it, she look at the how thick and huge those eyebrows are, and the head color, and the speckling down the back.
She's got
She's
literally
one of the younger
literal
ones
lip
too.
scale, literal lip
Yeah,
scar color.
right. It's just she's perfection.
How old is she now?
She is about 6 months
But these
old
are up to
now.
date pictures, you said, right? These are
Well, I keep like I just keep adding them.
okay.
And so like in that photo currently right there is when I first got her, and she was 4 or 5 grams.
Damn,
Now
full
she's
blown
10
eyebrows.
grams. Right. That's what I'm saying. Like that with how thick her stripes are, and just I mean, she's a to me, not perfection, but close to
So
what
what
I
do
was
you do?
hoping
What would be
for.
the plan? To take an animal like this and then ultimately put it to your next best, highest covered male? Is that like basically what
Yeah,
you're
I
looking
wanna
for?
I
Or?
want I wanna expand on the head pattern, and I want to expand with this line. I want the back to kind of wrap around the sides so that it's like the entire animal is the saturated color, the
Hmm.
not base color, but pattern color.
Oh, that's her fire down.
That's her fired down. That was the day I got her. So that's the day I picked her up from the FedEx, and
Be
you
shocked
know,
too.
she,
Jeez.
dude, they shipped in tiny little containers. It was crazy. They were so tiny when I got them in.
I bought in some babies' gargs before too, man. It's like the cutest little things.
Yeah, they're like little mini alligators. And that's actually the photo I saw. So if you go back to where it has the eight,
Love the
so for
fire
a long
down.
time I called her number eight, because what he did, and I love this, he put a die and rotated the die around for each animal and took a photo, and that's the photo I saw on Facebook that I immediately said I'll buy it.
Oh, that's cool. That's how he numbered the different animals, one to eight.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's
Right.
cool. It's cool. It's
It was
clever.
cool. So, and yeah, that's his vet business in France. So if you're in France, but
Very
you can see
cool.
if you scroll down the
Oh, here we
parents,
go.
yeah,
There they are.
yeah.
There's
So those are siblings.
this
They
one's got
all
a
have head
full
color.
color too,
That
man.
one is Hula.
Did
Number
he
five
give
is
you
Hula.
pictures of the parent? Oh, these are the parent. These
There's the parents.
so these are his.
Those are his.
I like this look. It's I like it. It looks kind of dirty, I
Yeah.
guess almost, but I like it. I like
Yeah.
it.
And you can see it's very kind of that European
Yeah.
style look to it. But they're red, which is, a little bit more unique for that too, because they're a lot more orange there.
I think that's huge in
Um,
discovering new genes too, though, is taking these lines that have, evolved on two different continents, separately for the last 30 years and bringing them together.
Mhm.
I think that that's
Yeah.
huge for
Well,
at
and
least
and there's
possibly
stuff over
discovery.
there that I've seen in Europe where I think there's a translucent gene.
Are you serious?
I've seen babies where you can see right through them.
Well, ironically enough, Sergeant Geckos,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
he's coming on the podcast soon, and I'll get a chance to show some pictures. But he's got some that he like puts up to the light, and you can see right through the animal.
Yeah.
It's super strange, and he's always sending me pictures, and I'm like, dude, I'm not a gar guy. I
He's
don't know.
trying to go for some cool, unique stuff. I know he just picked up Barbie,
Yeah, yeah, Barbie. I'm like, I
right?
don't
And
know anything about this, but other than it's freaking cool.
yeah, I don't know. It could be a pink pastel. It could be something where it's translate. It looks like it's got a ton of potential, and I hope he proves something out. He's a great guy. He picked up a gecko
How
from me
did
when
I
he first
miss this
started.
guy? This guy is cool too.
So that's Papona's son, who produced that crazy female you liked.
He's a double
Who then,
color.
yeah.
I
So
love that
he's
double color thing.
yeah. So he's really cool.
It almost
Um,
disappears there.
it does when he fires down.
It's a
So that's
great.
the picture that I saw when I was gonna buy him. So
I like how you put out the people's name that made him. That's a
yeah.
noble
Well,
thing to
you
do.
see where I put everything. I want to show where I got them from and who produced them, and you know,
That's the right way
keep
to do it. That's
keep it transparent and fun.
yeah, for sure.
So
See,
yeah, these are all Kylie's photos she took. I
he's
love
a
that's the
chunk,
other thing I
huh?
want to talk about with marketing. I love people like this that have sort of a theme with their photos, and I try to emulate that a little bit. I'm not as
Sure.
good, but like they have these props, and then they get the same angles all the time. So that's Mapona. If you go down to her picture of the male, so that was the male that produced. That's the grandfather of Christmas.
Ah,
So he's produced some of the best.
this is why lineage. This is how lineage plays a factor, right? Like it's not a
Right.
guarantee every time, but you're working with better odds when you know
Exactly.
the
And
lineage.
and there's some other guys too that I talk to on a
Ah, I
consistent
love that.
basis who have
Relax, you're in the
some really
cove.
cool theories. What's that?
I said
Oh
I
yeah,
love
relax
that.
here in the cove.
Relax,
Yep.
you're in the cove. I love it. Very
So yeah, like yeah, I'll shout out a buddy just because it's his theory and I don't want to steal it. My buddy Levi from Axel's Wildlife. I you should have him on to talk to you about his theory on just the back leg and how that is a great predictor of where color will be.
really.
Again, yeah, it's kind of cool. So even at a young age,
Elaborate a little bit.
so his again, it's his theory. I didn't make this up, but I basically kind of he has an idea of where certain places in the back leg where color concentrates consistently on high end animals and even lower end animals. Um, he can be a really big predictor on is there going to be a full stripe? Is it going to be a closed back? Where are the geckos strong genetically? Because there's some geckos that are really the ones that came out with eyebrows first are really strong in the back dorsal, that center line, that very center two lines. And people who focused on that tend to have more of those isolated head eyebrows, and they could have no laterals whatsoever, and that's or weak laterals, and it was fine because that's where they focus. Other people focused in other areas, and so it's kind of fun. I don't want to misspeak because I don't know what I'm talking about there, but I try to listen to them and learn, and again, theories are theories until we prove them out, but it's how we kind of grow, and it's something that I pay attention to now, and I look for when I buy geckos. Not that
Sure.
I, believe it 100%, but I'll hedge my bets.
Hey, I get it. I respect it. I respect the people that spend the time to make, let alone make the observations, be confident enough in their observations to make the statement. Like that's
Hmm.
shows that you are paying attention. Like it's
Yeah, he's a real,
admirable.
it's one of those things where, like you said, I'm impressed with his intelligence that he's going to go and look at photos, not just look at the stuff everybody looks at, but look at the stuff that people would not look at and find patterns where there were no directions on look
Sure.
here, right? And it's those patterns in this hobby that sometimes there's something and sometimes they're not. But man, if you can find the pattern before everybody else, you could do some really cool things. You could pick up some gems that maybe are selling for 300 bucks that people are overlooking, but it's a loaded animal and it's going
Sure.
to throw babies. So that's something that I'm
Do,
going to keep an eye out for.
do you find that you have animals from lots of people and lots of breeders? Do you find that the animals you gravitate to come from breeders or keepers with smaller collections? or do you have animals that are from people with like large collections also?
Yeah, I have people, geckos from all different, but I would say that the people who, let's put it this way, the people that I really gravitate towards probably have similar size, if not a less, slightly larger collections than me, but a lot of them have small collections too. So yeah, I would say that I kind of gravitate towards the
I
smaller
would
collections
say
because my thing is that they tend to invest more in the higher end with less quantity, where like there's some great people who produce nice things, but it's one-offs here and there, or
well, it's just a
or
numbers game, you
it's
know.
a numbers game. And those are the people who are probably going to come out with genetic, gold mines eventually, because it's just a numbers game.
Yeah, I guess if you're talking
Potentially. We're
statistically,
talking about morphs.
when you talk about
Um,
concentrated, focused in more attention to genes and lines, and you decrease the odds of getting the unwanted
Crazy
stuff, if
mutation.
you will. You deal
Yeah.
with these people that have these smaller collections. I just personally, from my observations, even with crested geckos and chewies and everything that I deal with, people
Hmm.
that have these smaller collections just have more time to focus in on specific things, and they
Right.
I don't want to say they have better animals than anyone else, because I can't really say that. And I don't want to say that because I, again, know people with huge collections that produce great animals, but I just feel like there's something special with smaller collections and people that,
It
spend
gives you
more
some
time.
it gives you the ability to, like you said, hone in on certain
Yes,
things or
yes,
certain quality, or you're investing in certain
very
higher
specific things.
quality features of your animals. But then again, like again, bring up Paul. Paul's a great example where he has probably a huge collection,
Yes.
but he is so dedicated to focusing and
He
lasering
can
in on all
cater
these
to
different
every
things
taste you want,
that,
though. That's his thing.
eh,
He
eh,
can.
eh,
You want a the mosaics or a bandit or just a blotch or a
right.
this. He has everything. So
Yes.
his approach, I'm sure he didn't just wake up one day and have what he has. He's built
No.
that over 30 years.
Exactly. And
Paul is a
I
unique
I think that,
situation. He's
you
not
know,
just buying everything and everything because, oh, I found a female for $200. I'll,
that's why, okay,
it
so
work
for
that way.
example, like his group three, right? His group three is known for solid six stripes lineage like crazy. One of the best babies that's been produced in the last few years came from a mediocre at best looking group three female mixed with Magnus. And, you know, everybody's like, well, how did it get made with that? Well, guys, that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to create powerhouses genetically in all of his animals, even the ones that don't come out, looking like a $10,000 animal. They've got the genetic backing where sometimes you pick up an animal that's gorgeous, but it comes from just
Just
mediocre
odd
lineage, and
animal from
the
trash.
odds that you're going to reproduce
Yeah,
that are not nearly as high. So,
Buford
you know,
Sam.
I say that, but then again, I buy the ones that have the visual because I like pretty things.
Sure,
So,
sure, sure.
whatever.
Have you noticed? And again, I don't. Again and again and again, know nothing about gargoyles, but I have noticed that certain animals, like you'll see two red animals that are they're equal quality red, striped, or blotches. Some will have a
Mhm.
yellow ring around their eyes, and then some don't. What is that? Is it something? Do you guys
Just
know
another
anything about
trait.
that? Just it's just a
I don't know anything. I mean, some of them have different colored eye rings. It's just another trait that
not
I guess people can
associated with
focus
face
on.
color or anything.
Not that I've seen. No, not that. I mean, again, it could.
I
Maybe there's
just
something
noticed
that
on some
someone
and it's not on
focuses on,
others.
and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, I should start focusing more on that. Uh, Not that I've really looked at, to be
They
honest
all
with you.
have blue eyes, huh? Other than the phantom eye, all gargs have blue eyes. Have you seen anything with any?
Blue-ish. It's a lot of gray. I so there's certain ones that now here's something that you should look for. You look at Mahe, you look at Eve, you look at Tiki, they have red eyes. The if you know how New Cal they have like kind of that lightning crackling, striations in their eye. If you go and look at Mahe those striations are not black, they're red. And it's a really cool thing.
I find
I
that out with
think,
my crested geckos. Like, most people say like a crested gecko has to grow into the red. I can tell
Mhm.
an animal when it's born by the color in its eye. If those lines in its eyes are red, I guarantee you from the day it hatches, I promise you that that animal is going to be red. And I go by the eye color. That's how I tell by the eye color.
well, and I'm literally just thinking out loud right here, but the more I'm thinking of it, I really think that those geckos I just named that I own are probably something genetically where the red is already there. Going back to the theory of we're just removing the black. And so in the eye, if you remove the black, what's left? Red,
Sure.
right? And so that could be something. Um, yeah, you could go show it off if you want. There, right
Well,
there, you
there's
can
one.
see
Because
zoomed
I
in.
saw one before and I thought
That's
I
it.
was
You can see the
tripping out.
red.
I was like, yeah, there's definitely red in
That's
that.
Mahe. Yeah. So, I've got close-up photos, still photos of that. Whereas you look at other ones and then they're black striations. Um,
Observations.
yeah.
Another video.
So,
All right, Bobby, we're
but
over
I have fun
3 hours,
with
brother. And I could talk for another
it.
five
Sorry.
hours, and I'd be like completely honored to have you back on and maybe talk
Yeah,
about some
anytime you want.
photography and stuff like that. I think that'd be great. I think what you're doing in the hobby is admirable. It's positive. It's very inspirational, uplifting. Everything you do, I commend everything you do.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
it's been a complete honor to have you. I remember the first day you posted a video, man. I've been following you from like day one, bro. And
You have been, and I really
watched you
appreciate that.
evolve. I've watched you grow and change many a times, and I don't think you're even close to finishing yet, brother.
No, we're just getting started. We're having fun. I'm having fun with this, and it'd be honored to be back on. We can chat anytime you want, and I gotta have you on my podcast and actually get that back up and going because you're doing some great things, and just how consistent you are and your thoughtful questions. I enjoy the hell out of your long, fun episodes. One of my favorite things is to put you on with whoever you're on guest wise and mow the grass because I've got a big yard to mow. And it's like it's awesome when I don't have an episode of yours. It's a lot longer of a experience, a lot less fun.
See, well, that's my
So
point. I try to get people. I know there's short form and there's long form, and it's not for everybody, but I spend a lot of time in my gecko room, and I'm always looking for something that I don't have to go hit next or
mhm.
jump to another video or my phone shuts off because the clip ended, and I'm in here for 2-3 hours at a clip. I just want to listen
Yep,
to just talk, man. Let me hear about some animals while I'm doing stuff, and I
I'm
get
right
it's
there with
not
you.
for everybody. It's not, but I enjoy asking these questions. I enjoy learning, and from everybody I talk to, I learn something. And I feel that everyone deserves the opportunity to share their passions, right? Like you all matter. Where I'm not one of these other specific podcasts that only brings on their friends and the same guest 15 times and talks like some elitist or something because we're not. There's all levels of
Mhm.
keepers. I'll talk to people that are new in the hobby and I talk to the real OGs in the hobby. And in my
Yep.
opinion, and I'll said it many times, and I will continue to say it, the little girl in the hobby that has one leopard gecko is just as important as Paul Morlock is. Like
Hmm.
we all matter. We all make up this community. Everybody matters. Everyone is part of this. We all deserve to be heard, to be seen, to have some say. And as long as people are positive and you're not going to bash anybody, belittle anybody, put anybody down, or do any type of that nonsense,
Hmm.
you have a platform, man. If you have something valid to share or to say, I let people talk. And sometimes it's not as long. This is a good conversation. This is probably the longest podcast I've recorded right now. And it
Winner.
wasn't
No.
forced one bit. Didn't have to force answer out of you. I didn't have to stumble for a question. I didn't. It's just organic, man. We're just
Yeah.
two dudes geeking out over geckos and
Dude, I
Hopefully
tell people all the time, I'm
take it
always
away
happy
from me.
to chat geckos. I've had people kind of reach out and they're like, "Am I bothering you?" I'm like, "Dude, I'll tell you if you're bothering me. I'm a very blunt
Right? I'll
person,
be the
but I go,
first one to tell
if
you.
you've got if you've got genuine questions and you're not being if I can't get back to you and you're not being a jerk because I didn't get back to you in 10 minutes, like I'll keep chatting with you, and I'm happy to share my knowledge because I remember I was looking back at photos of like a vacation I took where I had to get someone to watch my geckos. And the first time I did that, I had three geckos and I've had them all in bioactives and they were just little babies, and how different it is now. I'm going on vacation in a few weeks. And it's one of those things where it's like, I need someone who really can help me because now I've got a bigger collection and I got all this other stuff. And that was only a few years ago. And so, you know, we all keep growing. 3 years from now, like you said, where am I going to be in 5 years? I don't know. We're going to have fun, and I'm probably going to grow, and I'm probably going to have twice as many females going at that time, and hopefully, you know, I'm still enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying it now.
I think
So
you
I
will.
really appreciate. Oh, I know I will.
One more
I've
question.
never loved something this much other than my family. This is awesome.
It's a good thing. One more question. When you run into a jam, and not that everyone should, but I believe in mentorship. I believe that everyone should have someone that knows more than them.
Mhm.
Who's your go-to person if it's not too intruding? Who do you go to when you have a problem and say, "Hey, so and so, man, I got this going on. What do you think?"
So there's a few people that I reach out to. It depends on what it is. So like
Which is good. You
there's the
should have
gen
a variety.
yeah. I mean honestly, I've reached out to Paul and Kelly for the big things. Like, hey, my gecko got in a little tiff here. Here's is this vet worthy? Yeah, it is. Okay. So then I go and find my vet. Or can you tell me what's the benefit of going and putting in trios versus I know you've done the experiment with just one-on-ones. Like, explain that to me. I know we talked about it, but so I've had those kind of conversations with them. But also I'll chat with, other breeders that have just been doing this longer of, okay, what do you think of this pairing? Right? What do you think of that pairing? Should I keep this gecko? It's not progressing the way I'm wanting it to. Yeah, it's got good lineage. Do I base it off of that, or do I base it off of the visuals plus the lineage? There's a lot of questions, and then I have my kind of people I just theorize with, right? And so I have questions that don't really matter as far as like what I'm doing today with my geckos, but I want to continually learn more. And so I've got probably two or three people there that, I talk to consistently. And then I've got some people that I know they look at me as if I'm the expert. And, you know, I always am careful with that. I'd rather just act like your friend and give you my advice on how I would do it if it was my gecko. Because again, I still feel super new in this whole ordeal. And I don't want to have an imposter syndrome,
Because I
but I
respect.
also don't want to act like I don't know anything because that would be
Sure.
a lie too.
Your experiences are
Um,
your experiences. Your experiences are things you have lived through. And if your experiences help someone else, dude, there's no wrong in that. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the hobby. Like if it's
like I
better
know
than
how to
just
sex a
passing
gecko
on
now.
hearsay, right? Like
Like
what I've heard.
I don't need to be in here for a decade to know, hey, here's a picture of it looped. Is this male or female? What do you
Sure,
think?
sure.
Grow it up a little bit. It's ambiguous now. Or yeah, no, that's definitely a male. Those kind of things too. I'll speak with authority on. But as far as like, you know, what is the white gecko, genetics? I don't know. So I'll be
Yeah,
honest with you.
autonomous.
That's all
Yeah,
I can do.
autonomous. That's cool. So where can everybody find you for the people out here that don't know? Where can they find you? Where can they find your animals that are for sale? What are some next events you have coming up? Whether you're vending at a show or you're doing some online sales, give us your sales pitch for everyone out there watching.
No, I just want them to leave me alone. No, I am happy to. I so you can find me on my website, Gecko Cove, if you want to go look at my geckos that I'm currently working with. If anything catches your eye, I will have babies later this summer that I've produced out of those pairings. and I'm going to grow them out a little bit longer than I have in the past, just because these are kind of like the ones I'm really excited about. So I that's I typically sell on Morph Market. You can always message me if you see something that you really want on IG, that's an infant, or a baby or grow out. Uh, there's a joke, right, that everything has a price. And so, like, if you want one of my breeders, you want to give me $15,000 for it, I'll probably say yes. So, but other than that, but I, you know, the other big thing I'm going to start doing is Palm Street. It's not geckos that I'm going to be producing, but like I was talking about earlier with my buddy Oliver, he lives close by. He's got amazing, not only gargoyles, but Chihuahua and lychees and crested geckos. So we're going to offer some really nice high-end
Stay
stuff
tuned for
on
that,
Palm
guys. Stay
Street.
tuned, man. Stay tuned.
I Yeah, so it'll be under his name, and I'm just going to be helping, kind of talk him up and show everybody. And so, I wouldn't be doing that if I didn't believe in what he does and how he cares for stuff and his quality. So, he's a really cool guy. He just doesn't like to be on camera as much as I do. I like mirrors and
Understandable.
cameras.
Understandable. Do
But
you
yeah,
have
other
any
than that.
plans for vending any shows, like physical shows in the near future?
No, I was thinking about Schaumburg, to do that again, but I'll be gone that weekend, so I can't do it. I'll be at Tinley's, so if you're going to the Tinley show, please stop by, say hi if you see me in, the crowd. I'm always honored when people stop me. I love meeting
Just say what's
people.
up to them, guys, man. We're all
So
human beings, man. We all breathe the same air, man. If you see him and you're polite,
yeah,
you're not interrupting and being rude, say
and
hello,
who
man.
knows?
Make
Just
friendships,
like
make
I
connections.
The other thing is I'll plug, my new kind of like buddy podcast thing that we're still
Yes.
ironing out with me and John from Goldenrod Gex. I'm telling you, it was just a Tinley. We bumped into each other. He said hello, I said hello, and then we,
See?
not that I'm gonna be best friends with everybody, but it's something that you don't plan. But if you don't say hello, you can't go to that next level with people and get to know them a little bit more. And I'm always happy to chat. Obviously, I've talked for long enough. If you're still here listening to this, you know how long I can talk.
I hear
So,
you. All right, Bobby. Well, it's been 3 hours and 11 minutes of pleasure. I appreciate
well,
you
thank
coming
you.
on. I appreciate your time. I hope you understand how much I appreciate you taking the time away from your children to be here. I can't thank you enough, dude. It was great talking to you. I always enjoy talking to you. Again, I think you're on to some great stuff. I see nothing but a bright future for you. And keep doing what you're doing, dude, and staying you, man. You're a great positive influence in the hobby, man.
I appreciate that.
I
You are
can't
too, man.
appreciate you
And I
any
can
more.
say literally all the same things back to you. And it's
I'd
an
rather
honor
you
that you had me
didn't.
on here. Fair enough. But yeah, maybe next time. Like I said, I need to have you on mine because I want to learn about. I'm
The cool.
genuinely very curious about Chihuahua, or Kahua, whatever you want to call them. I still call them Chewies.
Sure, all day.
Um, and I just, I could learn a ton from you, and I'd be honored if you'd come on my podcast.
Sure, brother. Anytime,
That'd
man.
be
You let
awesome.
me know I'm there. All right,
Sounds
guys.
great.
Appreciate you all coming. Appreciate you all watching. I appreciate every single one of you guys, man. If you ever have any questions or anything that I can help you with, can't promise you I can, do whatever you're asking me to do, but I promise you I will give it all I got. Have a great night. It's 1 o'clock in the morning here. Stay weird, everybody.
Have a good one, guys. Later.